YouTube. And today we're joined by Josh Blue from Blueest Star Seed Company. Everybody watching on Instagram, please head over to YouTube and or X and give us a watch over there. We cannot have this conversation on Instagram because Instagram does not love our plant the way you do. So please head over to YouTube or X and watch us live and chat with us. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks, guys. Alrighty, Josh.
Yeah.
So, everybody, I'm super excited to have Josh here today telling his story. He's been in cannabis for a long time. He's been breeding for a long time. He's been doing a collab with DJ Short. He's got a ton of fun things to talk about, including finding the or seeing blueberry for the first time at Deer Creek 1995, which I think is a cool story. I haven't heard the story. I just know that that's what happened, but I think it's interesting being that in 1991, Greg found the flower that ended up making the chem dog there, and Josh's history there, and also that was a crazy night in Grateful Dead history. The the fans outside were breaking down the fences to get in. There was a death threat on Jerry's life. I think they did the show with the lights on. I
Yep.
think is what I heard is that because I wasn't there. My last time at Deer Creek was in '91, or yeah, '91. But yeah, so there was death threats on Jerry's life. The show went on with the lights on. From what I heard, somebody posting was there was helicopters buzzing over the place, and during Drums in Space, Mickey and Billy were playing super hard, trying to drown out the sounds of the helicopters. So yeah, bunch of crazy and fun stories, and of course, we're gonna talk about all the breeding work that Josh has done. His collection of stuff that is available to the world. Also, I'd like to point out that I'm an authorized retailer for Blueest Star Seed Co. So if you guys are interested, you can hit us up at gabbysi.com. It's all on the website already. And we've got some really good deals for 420. So with that, Josh, tell us your weed story. And start as early as you can in your story. I'd like you to just go
Sure.
back, your first experiences with herb and so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and I don't know
My
if I said it, but Not So Dog will be joining us. He's just a little delayed as usual because, he's a dad and a good one.
so yeah, jumping right into a beginning of my relationship with cannabis. My brother and older friends will probably get a good chuckle out of this because I'm kind of the weed guy now, right? For my circle of people. There's plenty of weed guys, but I definitely am all in on caring for the plant. So my first experience was we grew up in Indiana, and there was a lot of Mexican swag around, low quality, compressed, seedy herb, and that was mainly the option for young people that weren't privileged to have friends and family that were connected or growing, good quality herb. Um, so yeah, and I grew up with during the Reagan years of just say no to drugs. The old the old videos of some fried eggs and bacon, saying this is your brain on drugs type of stuff. And I was young and impressionable and believed all that about cannabis. It probably kept me away from hard drugs, which is a great thing. But turns out cannabis is our best friend. So yeah, my first experiences were swag. People rolling up that cheap commercial pot, and it smelled like. I remember saying it smelled like bad body odor, like somebody's armpit sweat. My older friends will remind me of the times when I wasn't smoking yet, and I would stick my head out the window while these guys were all cruising around together, and they're all burning that swag weed, and I wasn't ready for it yet. So that was my first experiences, and then eventually I seen all my friends using it and their experience with it, and I realized, oh, this isn't some crazy drug. People act pretty normal on this. They're actually, generally speaking, a little bit kinder. So that opened me up to giving it a try. So yeah, started smoking swag, and then as we got more experienced and got a little more opportunity to you know share that experience with other friends and family, good homegrown started coming around. Friends and family would open up and start to share. So then I found that, oh, there's quality cannabis besides this low grade uh, commercial blockweed. Um, so that opened me up a little bit more to consuming cannabis. And then in '94, we decided to go down to the Grateful Dead show in Deer Creek. That was our kind of home venue. Um, and we didn't have tickets. We just went down to basically score good weed, some score some good L, and go to the campgrounds and party with everybody and have a good time. So go down to Shakedown Street on the lot and do our shopping and hang out and party with people. And we did. We found some good herb and found some good acid, and went back to the campground and had a merry blessed time. And I like to say that was the year that I met Jesus. He was on a sheet of blotter
I
with a
thought
bunch of
you,
orbs
I thought you were gonna say he was kind of fat and wearing black t-shirt and sweatpants, but
and rolling up big joints.
that was my Jesus.
But yeah, that was my first experience with good family acid, and it I reflect back on it still. It changed my world. It changed a lot of people's worlds. That stuff was so strong that I took a couple hits and I was out of body for sure. And I just hear countless stories of high school friends that stripped down naked and walked through the cornfields, and some of them end up in cop cars, and some ended up in counties away.
Well,
But everyone got floored off that Jesus.
we've told stories like that on my podcast before. Not about me. I never got naked at a Grateful Dead show, but one of my closest friends, he did, and I mean, I'm going to interrupt you already right off the bat and tell this story because it's one of my favorite
Yeah.
stories to tell, even though I've told it before. But me and my buddy, and I'm going to leave his name out to protect him because he actually works in schools and, you know, and I'm going to embarrass the fuck out of him right now. But we were both in college. He was in college in upstate New York. I was in college in Staten Island. And we had gone like the entire from summer through fall tour without, doing anything potent like that. And we went to see the Grateful Dead. It was the first shows without Brent. It was Vince's first shows in 19 actually yeah, so I think it was 1991 fall tour. And he came to the show straight from college, like he took the Amtrak with the like most giant backpack ever, and that'll come into play later. So we we my soon to be girlfriend, she wasn't my girlfriend at the time, she dosed me and him with just one hit. But it was, I think, like the lotus flowers. It was like 4 hits made a flower, I think. And we both just went completely out of body. But it was different. Like, so for me, I just sat there in my, and I'm not the type of guy to just sit down at a Grateful Dead show, but like I couldn't get up. I just sat there like this and like completely blown away. And he had a different experience. He wanted to run. He just wanted to and
Mm-hmm.
like he was running around in the inside of Madison Square Garden, like in the hallway. He's like running around the hallway, and he started off like fully dressed. Then after a couple laps, he was missing a shirt. Then he was running around in his underwear.
You get a little hot.
Yeah, he was working out, and I lost him. He was gone. Okay. And like the second set, I was like literally sitting in my chair. I'll never forget. And I could not hear the music. Like
Mm,
the psychedelics were like changing time for me. And
yeah.
so it was Scarlet Fire or Scarlet Begonias, right? And all I could remember was whoosh, 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 whoosh. And I was asking everyone around me, is like, man, does this sound like shit? And they're like, you're crazy. This is the best ever. Like everyone was just like, no, it sounds incredible. And I was like, I can't hear it. I'm going like this, doing everything. I can't hear it because like it was just affecting my time in my life, like in my brain. Anyway, the show, eventually I caught up with everything. It was an amazing show. But my buddy, he disappeared. And he left me his backpack. Like, in our seats, he left his backpack from school. And I was so pissed because I was so high and so tired. And like, this backpack was literally bricks. It's like if you filled up a backpack with bricks, it was like heavier than that. And I had to carry it out of the garden, walking through these crowds of people like this. It was like everybody was elbow to elbow. And the entire time I was like cursing him out. I'm like, this motherfucker making me carry this shit. And so I like make it outside of the garden to like where there's, I was gonna say fresh air, but you're in New York City. It's not fresh, right? And there's all sorts of cops out there, which you used to leave Madison Square Garden and you'd be met by a line of cops. It was fucking just crazy. And somebody says to me, it's like, hey, aren't you friends with so and so? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, do you know where he is? And they're like, yeah, the cops took him away. I was
Mm,
like, why? What happened? He says, well, he was standing out here in front of Madison Square Garden naked, and the cops were just laughing at him. They didn't even want to mess with him. They were just like, look at that naked guy over there. And he got so upset that he jumped the cops. And they took him like to a mental hospital that night, because he like attacked the cops fucking naked. And I'm also like, can't help thinking like those poor cops, which
right.
you'll rarely hear me say that, but like
I'm with you.
having to deal with like naked, sweaty so and so, like high on acid, wanting to attack him because they're laughing that he's naked on the street. Like, honestly, I probably would have been laughing too.
Right.
Like it's
You know?
funny. It's funny. But the next day it was like, and there was a show the next day. So like he didn't get to go and it was just, so yeah, people have been known to get too high and get naked at Grateful Dead shows.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm glad it never happened to me.
Me too. Me too.
Did
It
you get
brings
into those shows at Deer Creek in '94, or were you just hanging in the parking lot?
not in '94, but I did in '95. Going to '95, we got tickets that year, and that was back in the day where they had lotteries and you had to stand in line. And our lottery was at the mall in LS Airs in the women's lingerie. A bunch of deadhead hippies had to hang out in the women's lingerie underwear section, waiting to see if their raffle ticket won, so they could be close to the front of the line to get tickets. Well, there was like 100 people there, and they're selling tickets nationally. The first 10, 12 people would get tickets and they're sold out. It's pretty much how it
Right.
works. Five minutes, they're sold out. And my brother and I didn't know how the raffle worked, and we both got raffle tickets right next to each other, number 48 and 4. I remember the numbers, 48 and 49. They drew number 50, which means we're dead last. We're not getting tickets. And I ran into an acquaintance friend from high school who was like ninth in line, and he was only getting two first night tickets. Well, they were allowing you um, four tickets for each night. They did 2 nights. So that guy got me the extra 2 first night tickets that he wasn't using, and he also bought me the other 4 second night tickets. So I bought up what we could buy, and looking forward to basically, trade my extra tickets for some good kind bud or something like that, and get me and my brother into the shows. So we scored tickets, and we're stoked. We're going to the show, and that year there was, just throwing out a rough guess, but 50 or 75,000 people outside of the show, including the 20,000 that had tickets for inside the show. So there's like 80 to 100,000 people at this venue. That's basically meant to hold about 25,000. They just don't have the infrastructure to handle that. And so we pulled up, and there was so much traffic that we could not get to the parking lot. We actually had to pull off to the side of the road and walk up to the venue to get in. And I'm not sure, honestly, if I was in there on the first song or not, but I was probably, let's see, so 95. I think I was 17. And I knew the greatest hits, the Skeletons from the Closet, and a little more of the repertoire, but I didn't know near of their 1,000 song library that I know of now. And so the first song I walked in on was Here Comes Sunshine, a pretty cool tune that was the very first time I'd heard it, and it kind of blew me away. And we're usually partying it up in those young, teen years where we're either eating some acid or some kind of pill, like a Xanax or a Downer or Valium or something like that. I think I was blessed that I didn't have any of that that night. We just had a bunch of decent green, like homegrown herb joints rolled up, and so I got some really vivid memories of that show. So we get in there to that show, and it's jam packed, of course. And we go back to the walk up to the fence in the very back just to kind of survey the scene and look for a spot to maybe go hang out. And so we're right on the back of this fence, and Deer Creek has like an 8 foot tall, it's like a staggered fence. So it's got like gaps so you can like see through it. And I don't know when it was, but not too long after that, I saw what I thought was the first dude on the left-hand side of the venue of the fence come up and over and fall on his neck and shoulder. And I thought, well, that guy just broke his neck. And he hopped up and hooted and hollered. And I was like, holy shit. And the whole crowd just, started getting crazy. And I looked out that fence, and I could see it looked like a zombie apocalypse movie or something. Like people were swarming like this up towards the fence and coming up and over it. And I saw cops come on horseback with tear gas and break up that. And the people would just form on the whole opposite side of the fence. It's like a baseball park at the back of a stadium like that, right? Where you have like 300 yards of fence. So like 300 yards away on the other side, they're forming and running up and over on that side. The cops cruised over there on horseback, tear gassed them, and it would just went back and forth for a good maybe hour or something. And then I noticed, wow, this is fucking crazy. But the cops stopped. They just gave up trying to stop them, and it kind of blew me away. And at that time, I turned around and looked behind me, and I'm probably in the middle of the venue, right by the fence. And right behind me, there was like a 4 foot wide hole in the fence. So people had torn apart the fence, and you could walk right through. so like, I saw people come up and over, walk right through. And like I said, the cops they didn't have enough manpower. They couldn't do anything about it. So they literally gave up. And then you made some comments about that show that were pretty spot on that I remember, which is they did leave the house lights on down in the pavilion because Jerry did get a death threat. And I do recall he played Dire Wolf, where those, lyrics, please don't murder me. So that's a classic moment, of course. So the show went off, and for me, 17-year-old kid, 80,000 people, giant party, listening to the Grateful Dead the first time, like they might have missed every other, they might have been horrible musically, but to me, it was all pure magic. It was an amazing experience, something that I'll never forget, that changed my life for the positive. I know for a lot of people it was chaos, and there was a lot of people upset with the people they call gate crashers, fence crashers, and whatnot. I kind of reflect back on it, and I had a lot of friends that went up and over and walked right through, and if I I I don't know, I might have done the same thing. I probably would have in the middle
I've
of that
I've
giant
I,
crowd.
I I've snuck into Grateful Dead shows. I mean, I never, you know, uh, I never like climbed over a giant wall like that with a million people. But I do remember at Giant Stadium '89, we didn't sneak into the show, but everybody was sneaking onto the floor. And we were jumping
Hmm.
from the seated section down to the floor. And I remember I jumped down and I like run into the middle of the field so that because security was trying to catch people,
Right.
right? But then
Gotta be fast.
when I looked back, it was like a waterfall. I'll never forget like people just coming over like a waterfall. And, I don't know. I don't think there's anything that bad in sneaking into a Grateful Dead show. It was actually
Or,
just like part of, you know,
yeah, it's
what we
part of
had to
their
do
anarchist
sometimes.
view of life, right? It's
Yeah.
don't just give into authority. Have your own authority, your own mindset. Is kind of what the Grateful Dead taught
But
me.
what happened at Deer Creek was like extreme.
Well, that's the
Like
different point,
that
right?
was
They
like,
actually caused a lot of damage and chaos, and it created to where they canceled the next night's show because there was so much damage. So that was the big thing, is causing the issues where it's not cool to come around anymore at that point if they're going to tear shit up. Um, so so the show goes off, and we go back to the campground and start partying. And I run into a friend from high school who'd been on tour for a few years. He's been out of high school for a few years and following the Dead. And he uh, he was working to trade me for my second night tickets, and he had a nug of blueberry, and we traded at like 2 in the morning for those tickets. And I recall at like 2:25 or 2:30 in the morning, we heard on the radio that they had canceled the second night shows.
ooh.
Um, so just a fun little side tangent to that whole story about where I first fell in love with blueberry, was at that Dead show, and it really changed my perspective on what cannabis could be. I'd smoked some green homegrown by then, but to have a flower look blue, smell like blueberry, taste like blueberry, and provide a relaxing euphoria that was just magical to me. It still makes my hair stand up talking about it today. It really changed my view on cannabis as a medicine, instead of just chasing the enjoyment of being high and partying with people. Like, wow, this I don't think I had that depth of knowledge of that then, but it really kind of started sinking into me. Like, oh, this is more than just like a hangout party thing. This is like bring people together, community, like healing thing. And so yeah, that's where I found blueberry, and boy, we looked long and hard for that type of plant, for quite a while. So living in Indiana, at that time, there was Back of the High Times ads for the Amsterdam seed shops, and then I was just a little too paranoid to order anything to my location and grow. So we had friends that would go to Amsterdam and then bring back some seeds. And so we got to try a bunch of different stuff from that early '90s era over there.
Which,
A lot of cool.
if you think about it, it's kind of interesting because like we were scared to mail something, but
Mhm.
not scared to go through customs with, seeds in our shorts or something like that, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I was lucky that I had friends do that, so I didn't have to cross that bridge. But I probably would have. I know I would have. I would have smuggled them things back too. Um, So like, corrugated cardboard, I think, was the trick back then. But anyway, so I remember asking my friends to find the blueberry, and they were sold out, unfortunately, on the trips that my friends went over there at Blueberry specifically. So I did get some bubbleberry from Sagamortha that was really cool and unique. Not quite the pure blueberry, but somewhat similar. And then a lot of other things from that era, but like just never could find that blueberry that we were looking for. Um, so tons of growing in between then and when I finally got a chance to meet DJ in 2014, I think it was. DJ was doing DJ Short, the creator of the Blueberry. He was doing a talk at the High Times Cup in like Clio, Michigan, and so we got tickets, and that's a that's a fun little story too, where at that point you had to have a medical card, and so nice. So coming from out of state,
Just don't let me distract you.
the High Times staff had doctors on staff. I recall going to talk to a doctor and tell him about my back pains, and he followed up by writing me a prescription for medical marijuana, and I was able to enter the High Times event at that point. I remember,
$150 later and maybe
right,
15 minutes, right?
right, exactly. And my doctor was wearing a Batman T-shirt. I do have that fond memory too. uh, so yeah, so we go into the High Times event, and I listened to DJ's talk, and he's got a backpack with him where nice, where he's got a bunch of the genetics from that time frame that he's slinging out of his backpack, and I probably whip out 2 or 3 grand and buy like 60 packs of seeds right then, like 5 or 10 packs of every kind of thing he had. And I was just over the moon. So I went home and went to work, and so I was looking for that blueberry. So I popped on the blueberry and hunted all the females, um, and didn't found a bunch of great things, a bunch, but didn't find that home run grail blueberry I was looking for. At that time, I had spent a little time on the DJ forums on like IC Mag, and done a ton of reading of DJ's articles and reading of other people's grows of DJ's work. And it was well noted by a lot of people that trying a cross with the blueberry in it seems to really bring out the blueberry a lot of times. So I'd intended, on top of pheno hunting, also doing some breeding work. So at that point, I decided to dedicate a couple small male rooms, and I selected 60 males from all those packs, and I grew those all out to see how they would smell and grow out as male plants. But I also took the top 30 of those and reversed those. Shout out to Sam the Skunk Man. He shared an article, I think on ICMAC too, about reversing males to judge their what they may pass on in female traits to the offspring. So I did that. I grew out 30 clones of those males and reversed them, and I got great reversal action where I started a small clone and pruned it up to the top 3 nodes and had full on bud, flower set, full on cola from these reversed males. And at that point, I wasn't comfortable with smoking that final product because we had to spray it with a hormone, and I wasn't sure if that would be too safe to smoke. So, but I could judge the trichome density, aroma, which I was most interested in, flower formation, those sort of things, on what the male may pass on. And at that point, I took the top 10 most interesting blueberry leaning males, and crossed them to a control plant, one of my favorite cuts that was shared with me at that time, called Death Star, a cross of Sour Diesel and Sensi Star. So uh,
We actually
I,
did a podcast with, um, man, I can't, Maggie from Death
Maggie,
Star, yeah, last
yeah,
week. So
yeah, that's the only podcast I caught because it was close to my heart. So I'm like, I'm going to watch this. Yeah, thanks for having her on. It was great. So I had 10 male plants individually crossed to 10 Death Star clones. And so I ended up with 10 parental crosses to test out. So I tested all 10 crosses, and that's where I found my Grail blueberry hybrid, which I call Blue Star. It's a cross of course, Death Star is the mother, and then the Whitaker Blues male number 4, I think it was number 2 or 4, was the winner for me on that seed line. That produced the best offspring, that had the most pungent, unique blueberry flavor that I've experienced since that flower I had in '95. Um, so yeah, I've ended up with a bunch of cool F1s that I created from that specific male and a few of those other top 10 males that really stood out. But I chased and worked the Blue Star forward ever since. It should be my favorite plant. And so it smokes. It's got the sour diesel notes on the back end, and it's got traits of the Afghan that come through. But the blueberry phenotype on the Blue Star line is really the standout focal point. And it's just I describe it as some people just say it's pure blueberry, but to me, I can really tell those Afghan and sour diesel traits. Um, but it smokes blueberry pie dessert wine is the way I describe it, from the first toke to the last toke. So the flavor translates completely through. So you get to that last little piece of it. You want to keep smoking it if you enjoy the flavor. And has that powerful soaring narcotic sour diesel high up front, and then it tapers off and balances really quickly into that beautiful blueberry euphoric bliss. And that's really what I enjoy, is a little more power from the sour and the euphoria and the relaxation from the blueberry combined. And yeah, so that Blue Star line, I've been working that forward since I made the original F1s. So since 2014, so I've been working on that for, I don't know, 12 years, I guess now, and counting. And we've got a few lines out that I've finally released. I released an S1, which is the direct shot of that Blue Star phenotype, called Mayberry. And then I took the male female line to F2 and went through hundreds of plants, and found a bunch of really cool parental lines from the blueberry and the sour that would pop out. But I couldn't match the quality of my Blue Star mother plant. So I took 4 top selections from those F2s and back crossed those to the F1 mother to make the 4 Blue Stars line. That's why that's named that way, because we used 4 F2s back to the mother. And from there, we went and hunted hundreds of plants again. And then the number 82 phenotype back crossed to the F1 mother is what sprung out the most dominant blueberry offspring from those 4 crosses. We do have some killer Death Star skunk diesel phenotypes and some killer blueberry kush, blueberry sativa. And then there's a middle line that I call honey melon hash plant that comes from those Blue Stars too. But yeah, the flower you were showing there is a specific pheno from the 4 Blue Stars. That one specifically has the blueberry pie dessert wine like the mother does, and a little added like cherry liqueur diesel on the back end as well. And these Blue Star lines, they wash really well as well. I do all my selections based on
As I showed here.
flower. Well, that's getting down there. You're getting
Well, you
down
can
there on that one.
you can send me more, bro. I won't. I'm actually gonna open
I
up my
got you.
window because I'm gonna smoke this 4 Blue Stars right now. Hold on.
Nice. Oh, so I was saying about the rosin. So the Blue Star F1 mother, that's about 3.5% of rosin. And then in the 4 Blue Stars back cross line, we found that rich blueberry pie phenotype and for us, it's around a 5% rosin. I've had a few other people report a 5.96% rosin as well from that same phenotype. So full on blueberry flavor that washes 5% rosin. We're pretty stoked.
So this one that you gave me, it says 4 Blue Stars 19.
Yep.
Is that different than the flower that you gave me? Is that a different phenotype or is that the same?
Nope, that's the same phenotype. So that's the specific clone that I sent you as well. That we'll talk about whenever you want. But yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I used for my second back cross, my top out of a couple hundred females that I've selected. Full on blueberry pie, cherry flavor, and 5% rosin on top of that. But like I was saying, I select based upon how it smokes. So I want it to light you up, basically, make you feel great, and want to come back to it and smoke it again because it does that.
You did that.
And thank you. And then on top of that, what really makes you want to come back as well, is, besides the way you feel, and what enhances that is the flavor and the aroma. Both of those are vitally essential on top of how it makes you feel. That's what enhances it and drives it a specific way. So blueberry generally is very relaxing. Um, so yeah, I kind of lost where I was going there. But oh yeah, so I like to say that my trilogy of importance for breeding is: one is effect, two and three you can swap them back and forth, but it's flavor and aroma because they drive and enhance that experience of the effect.
I'll tell you, I'm embarrassed to say this, and I've said it before, so I'm not the best at describing terpenes. You know, like people ask me, like, well, what does your sour smell like? And I say, it smells like sour diesel. You asked me earlier, you said, because we were talking about body odor and stuff like that, where you said, well, what do you think Chem D smells like? I said, I think it smells like the Chem D. You know, like I don't know anything else that smells like that, and like trying to compare it to stuff. But what I can say about this herb, the 4 Blue Stars, is it reminds me of old school weed. You know, it's not like OG. It's not, you know, Kush. It's actually, I think, stuff that I had maybe even prior to that. You know, like what it's reminding me is like what Kind Bud was like prior to me having, you know, those OGs and stuff. That's
Hmm.
the 4 Blue Stars. But that's, I mean, I know it's pathetic, but that's the best way I can describe it. Is it smells and tastes like old school herb, and if you're an old school head like Josh and I, you're gonna love this. I mean, it's beautiful, and like okay, so when I squeeze it, I get more blueberry out of it. I can smell
Hmm.
the blueberry, but it's more than that.
Yeah, you
It's
got like a
more. It's
5-month-old sample there. You got to squeeze that one when it's fresh. You
yeah.
don't. You really don't have to squeeze it.
No, but my point is that it's more than just blueberry. Like
Yes.
I can smell something else in there, and like I said, I mean, 5 month old little scrap that he still had left. It's fucking beautiful.
So yeah,
I'm
so
really
the main
enjoying this
traits that
weed.
come out are blueberry Afghan and then the sour diesel traits. And you know, so that's the mix that I think that you're getting there. So that Afghan can be sweet, but it generally I describe that as like a putrid funk, a little bit of that what people call dank. um,
Putrid.
yeah,
That's you know that's a
a
selling
mild
technique right there.
skunky. I
Smells.
mean, it's on the skunky side, earth and skunky side is what it is. And then sour diesel goes that way too. Very fuely, very skunky. Uh,
Listen
not
to
for
what
you.
Amanda. No, no. Listen to what Amanda Huggins said. She said something, and I was like, "Oh my god, can you see that?"
No,
She says,
I don't see any of this stuff.
Chem D smells like an oral infection. LOL, indels, and SCFMS. I'm not sure what SCFMS is, but an oral infection. It's
Well,
just,
I was telling you that some people call it the halitosis,
I
aroma,
know.
which is like dead tooth decay or something like right.
The thing is, like,
I've described it as like
I would never want to consume anything that's like that. Like that to me is not, and like, I love the Chem D. I love GMO. I love that herb. And so like when you compare it to halitosis, I just can't accept that because I think it smells so good. Peppery maybe because it's almost like so spicy that it gets you in your nose a little bit, but halitosis, I mean, I would just never want anything like that. And so like I
Well,
just think
they're definitely
it's such a terrible way to describe it.
they're definitely diesely and fuely, right? So like when we talk about those things, what are we talking about? Like oil, grease,
But see, the thing is
like
that I don't think, like when we talk about gas and diesel,
mm,
like I don't think any of that actually smells like gas or diesel. Like I don't.
whoa,
It could just be my
yeah, you just have a
nose and
different
my,
palate.
but like when I smell like OG, I don't think gasoline or diesel fuel.
Really?
I just don't. But when people say, "What does it smell like?" I say, "It smells like OG."
There we go.
Like
Okay,
like
fair enough.
that. It's like
You might not say it's not fuel, but you don't have a descriptor for it though.
yeah. Now
Um,
I bought something and I've never used it. I'm gonna let you talk to people for a second while I go grab something because I want to show you.
sure. What should I talk to you people about? Hmm, I do have some seed packs out here. I don't know if they'll show up that well. Oh, that's the Hollywood Blues. That's a cross of Hollywood Pure Kush to DJ Short's 1998 F4 Blueberry. Heavy on the juicy fruit, lots of pine, fuel, slightly lime OG phenotypes. This HPK, a lot of people call it the marshmallow cut. It's definitely got a lot of sweet vibes that come out of it with the blueberry cross too, but heavy OG phenotypes too that are really rank. Where I usually describe generally OGs as pine and fuel combined. A little bit of like wood polish or pledge. Sometimes they go a hint of lemon or lime.
So, Crybaby from I think his Crybaby Organics. He used to podcast with Not So Dog, and he's an expert at the different smells like terpenes and esters and sulfur compounds, and he made a kit to help
Mm,
you learn how to. It's just like a sommelier has to learn how to describe wine.
hmm
Okay, like to help you describe the terpenes, and like so like I'll read one to you. It says carvacrol, best described as a terpene found in oregano, thyme, sage, pepperwort. There's just like a whole bunch of like, and then inside he gives you all these different terpenes so that you can like make mixtures to help train your nose, like because when you know what it is and you're mixing it, and then it's supposed to help you learn
hmm
about these different smells and how to, because unless you're smelling them like right, one after another, it's it's pretty difficult. Now, the
Right.
problem
Sure.
the problem is I have this kit and I'm not 100% sure how to use it. And so like I need to contact Crybaby and have him like walk me through because once you start to learn the process, then you just keep on, doing it and testing yourself and you know. But this is a super nice kit that he sells, and he gave me one as a gift. But I've just been scared to just open it up and like
Don't know how to get
there's
started. Yeah,
I
no,
mean
I think it's a great idea. Honestly, honestly, that's a lot. That's part of what taught me is we've got a bunch of essential oils that we like to diffuse, and so like have a smell that I can't pin down, and I've smoked on it and I've smelled it, and usually, I'm smelling the plant as it's growing. I'm smelling the plant when I'm harvesting it. I'm smelling the plant when I'm trimming it. I'm smelling the plant when it's drying and curing, and then I'm smelling the plant each time I roll it up. It's a nonstop thing. It's just
of
sensory.
course.
I go to smell every time I mess with the flower. Um, And so those aromas changed during that whole process. And cannabis is so complex with all of its different components and terpenes and cannabinoids and whatever other chemicals are in there, that yeah, it's I don't know that it's possible to pinpoint everything down. Just what stands out to you, what can you pick up, and so that essential oil test kit thing is a great idea, I think, to help train you.
I think
You know,
it's
to
an
start
awesome
picking
idea.
apart the individual components. You know, because everybody can say, "Oh, this smells like blueberry," or "This smells like fuel," or "This smells like skunk," but there's probably 10 other things you're smelling that you just don't know how to put a word to, really.
Yeah. I was telling him that these kits need to get sold and people need to get trained in the dispensaries. That's what I told him that he should do, is that he should sell the service of going to a dispensary with this kit. He pre-makes a bunch of different, scents. And then he asks the people, hey, what does this smell like? And what does this smell like? And, this is because of this. And, training the staff so that when the end user comes in, that they can do a better job of describing what these things are, and not
Pass on
just
that
giving.
education too.
Yeah, and the terpenes, it's such an important part of the equation, and
Yep.
at dispensaries they focus on the THC content, which in my opinion, it's it's not that it's not important, but it's the least important,
Right.
to me, because like I always say, like, look, I did a review a couple of weeks ago of the strawberry lemon G.
Hmm.
And I think it's some of the most beautiful, pleasant herb to smoke. But it's low in THC. You're gonna need to smoke more of it, you know? But it's like, that's fine, because like you can smoke another joint to get more THC, but if the terps aren't there, it's just, it's, you can smoke 10
Boring.
joints, 10 joints of terpless weed. Well, not only boring, but I feel like the final effect is just never there.
Flat. It's
Yeah,
flat. It doesn't get
exactly.
driven a certain way. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely from the school of terpenes drive the effect. I'm sure it's more than just terpenes. Whatever else volatile wise, compound wise, that affects the aroma. It's just like essential oils to a degree. Like, right? They tend to have certain effects. So you smoke something with lavender or blueberry in it, you tend to get that more relaxing effect. Um, you smoke something with myrcene in it, you tend to get more of that sedative effect. Uh, I had an experience where a friend from the forums, the first guy to put out the closed loop system specs, worked for like Skunk Farms Research or something. Trying to think, he went by Grey Wolf. He invited me to his place to do a little experimentation, and he gave me a dab of THCA, it's a pure 90% THC, and let me enjoy it for about 5 minutes. And yeah, it was present. The high was there, and it was not going anywhere. It was what I'd call just kind of boring. It just was flat. Uh, and then he gave me a dab of linalool, which he said was on the sativa side. And uh, I'll say this: a dab of any pure terpene is crazy. It's a bit too much. But anyway, I took that, and within a minute, I felt like I was a hummingbird. I was vibrating so much, and I was so high and so tweaky that like my eyes were distorted. I could see just blurriness. And I felt like like a hummingbird. uh, and then he let me experience that for about 5 minutes, and then gave me a dab of pure mercy, which is the indica side, the couch lock side. And of course, I've smoked tons and experienced couch lock. Well, this experience of couch lock was quite a bit different. It was the most extreme couch lock that I've ever experienced. It was to the point where almost like a K-hole, like my ass was falling through the couch, through the center of the earth, like I was in a video game. And you see the orange down arrows, and I was just going down. It was it was extreme and too much, and almost made me nauseous and sick, having that roller coaster up and down effect of how the terpenes drove me completely the opposite way in a 5 minute window. And it was just a real life example of the terpenes drive that effect.
You know what that reminds me of? And I don't know if this is a good memory or not, but like John Belushi, he used to do what was it, like heroin and coke at the same time? Like
The
pushing
speedball.
pushing the effect in the different
Yeah.
directions, like from the sedative to the uplifting.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Us hippies, we stick with weed and caffeine.
yeah, just the terpenes. Are you drinking a Coca Cola right there, bro?
Weed and caffeine. Oh, this is
Oh,
the
bro,
hippie
you,
speedball.
you're gonna make me ill. I'm gonna have to leave because I have like a massive addiction to Coca Cola,
Oh yeah.
and I was just in the hospital last week with kidney stones, and Coca Cola and kidney stones are like, you know,
They're buddies, huh?
yeah, they're buddies, and so like,
Shit.
I have I have to give the shit up right now, and it's crazy because I don't feel like I'm addicted to caffeine. It's the sugar and
Sugar.
everything
Yeah.
else that's in
So
Coca-Cola, and even just the way the shit tastes.
yeah.
Like,
Right.
I, you know, because
The psychological.
yeah, like because it can't be like as soon as you drink the Coke. I mean, Coca-Cola is such a fast-acting drug.
Hmm.
Like the second it's hitting your mouth, you're like, just like on those commercials, you're like,
I
it's
imagine it's
like,
like the cigarette smoker.
yeah,
It's
but
that
like
first
with
toke. You're like, ah,
cigarettes, you can understand because you're actually breathing it. It's going directly into your bloodstream, and anything that you consume has to go through your digestive system. So it shouldn't,
mm, I see what you're
So
saying.
it's got to be a lot of psychological stuff,
It is.
but it's powerful. And I've quit Coca Cola in the past for as long as like a month or two. Is like in years, I don't think I've gone more than a month or two without having, Coke. And then I'll be like at a pizza place and I'll be like, I can have just one. But I can't. I
Yeah.
can't because like it's like a Coke head who's has it and then they take one bump. I take
Yeah.
one bump, I'm off the wagon, and before you know it, I'm drinking like multiple Cokes a day. It's
Yeah. Yeah. For some people, it's cocaine. For some people, it's beer. For some people, it's a hot dog. For some people, it's the Coca Cola. I don't know the rhyme or reason for it, but it's whatever you're prone to that draws you in like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I've got the same addiction.
really randomly says, "LOL, no kidding. Stop reminiscing on Cokes." But so like, dude, I took my kids to the movies, and in the movies they have a Coca-Cola ad where they're pouring the bottle and it's just bubbling with the thing,
Yeah.
and like that shit triggers me like it's crazy.
I know
It's
how to sell it.
and I hate it. I hate that anything has that power over me, except for herb. I'm okay with herb having that power over me, but not that. Anyway, let's get back to 1995 or shortly after. We tend to get off track on the podcast, but you
Yeah, I
know,
jumped ship actually from '95 to 2014 meeting DJ. Really, but
well, we can talk
those
about anything between there and between. One thing I would love to do or hear is some more stories about Grateful Dead tour, Grateful Dead land, you know, your thoughts. Obviously, I know you're a Deadhead and you love Jerry, but like, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about, Bobby or Phil, for the last couple of years, and just anything you
um,
want to say about the Grateful Dead.
for some reason, I always gravitated towards Bobby. I guess I think I was a third child. I think Bobby was the youngest of the band. Bobby was always kind of Jerry was kind of always. They didn't like to talk about a leader, but everyone knows that Jerry was fucking idolized and was, considered, the leader. Um, and so I, had a close kinship with Bobby, and being 17 in '95 when Jerry died, so the Grateful Dead ended. But they jumped right into their side projects, whatever they called it, the Dead, Further, the other ones. I forget. We went to all of those. Um, but I was always staying at home and keeping the plants alive, and so I would just stick with the Midwest shows that we could get to and come back over a weekend, and take care of the plants. So Chicago, Indy, the Ohio shows, Alpine Valley. I'm sure a few others, but those were kind of like the main ones that I could get to go to quite a bit. Um, what was I going to say? Hmm, Tons of dead stories, but a couple random one-offs are popping in my head. Went down to a swag stock, and it was an interesting festival. Grateful Dead like oriented themed, like the people that ran it were a dead cover band, I think, called the Swag, and it was a fun vibe.
Do people
Good.
know what do people know what swag is? You think we should tell the youngsters what swag is?
Sure,
Swag is
feel free.
shitty. Swag is shitty weed. You know
Yeah,
the
I
weed,
mean, we considered it the
the weed.
Mexican
Yeah,
low grade block pot.
it was either swag or it was kind. You have two
Yeah,
categories. Either it's good or it's not good. Good,
there you
it's
go. That's the
kind.
simple way
Not
to.
good, it's swag.
Yep,
So,
exactly.
so the band
The
being
brown
called
crowd.
the band being called the swag is actually kind of funny because
It is
to
pretty funny.
to me that means they weren't like trying to take themselves too seriously. It's like we're just having to have fun here. Like
Yeah.
it's funny. So go ahead.
Um. So, yeah, I got to meet Wavy Gravy at that one. I was I sold him a bag of weed, and I didn't know who he was at the time, which I feel like an idiot now, because I'm a huge Dead fan, and like he's a big influential person from that time frame, and does all kinds of amazing things with the what was it, Camp Winter Rainbow or something like that, where he
Laytonville.
helps
Yeah.
out kids and stuff, and
Hmm.
he's got his hog farm that he has people at. But so so yeah, he's like, "Hey, I'm Wavy Gravy." I'm like, "Cool, that's $50." And I'm like, "Man, I definitely would have given that guy some herb for free if I had known." That was a fun little story.
Well, you should go
Um,
head up and see him at Winter Rainbow and be like,
Man,
I
I
I
should,
I owe you a bud, bro. I
right?
didn't realize I didn't realize it was you.
Let me roll this one up for you. This one will probably taste a little better 30 years later. I got a little better experience. Yeah, he was sharp and keen. He knew what was up, man. uh, what else to talk about? Hmm. I've got a little
Let me
bit of a
let me.
cold, so
Oh, no worries.
I'm
Let
medicated up, so my mind's a little bit spacey right now. I had to take a couple weed capsules to counterbalance, feel the fever.
let me say a little something about Wavy. I love Wavy Gravy. Like he's just a super special, unique person, and he is still to this day doing a lot of good stuff for the community with his Camp Winter Rainbow. Um, but he used to annoy the fuck out of me at Grateful Dead shows or like Jerry shows or Bobby shows, because he would come out and just go on this rant forever. And it was hard to listen to. Like you're high and he's like telling all this like really weird poetry and and we just want the show to start. And thinking back about it now, he was going on because the band was probably backstage just like not ready and but like meanwhile it was just like, oh my god, Wavy, just stop, please stop, let the music come on. And I just remember that being like so many times, but I still love Wavy Gravy. It wasn't like it was just too much at points, so
Mhm. What an amazing soul, right?
yeah.
Uh, for a minute there, I thought that about the Phil Donor rap, but I come to love and enjoy that, and appreciate that he would take the time to thank Cody and tell people his
Yeah.
story about. That's why he's still here, is because somebody donated their what was it? Shit, I should know this. Their liver,
Liver.
kidney.
I think it was
Yeah,
his liver. I don't know.
I've
I
heard it
should know
about
too. Yeah, so many
100
times.
times.
But what was cool about it was he always did it at the end of the show, and
I think it was a set break.
yeah, end of the set or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he always honored Cody. It's pretty cool, you
yep,
know. Kid saved his life, so
yeah. He got me to sign up for being an organ donor. Yeah.
so as we often do, I'm gonna go on a tangent. I'll ask for you to excuse me, but I did a podcast. It was with Michael Wolf Siegel, and it was right after our babysitter died. And she was 18 years old. She had a heart attack and she died. Her name was Riley, and she was an organ donor. And like the day that she died, that very same day, she saved, I think, was like 15 people, and I'm like scared to get an injection, and like the idea of like giving up my organs, even if I'm dead, I don't know, it was weird. But after seeing that Riley saved so many people in her death, I became an organ donor. And, I encourage everyone to at least think about it and not just blindly not do it because, you know, when Riley died, like we asked ourselves the question, like, okay, like if you could give your life for somebody, would you do it? Right? And so you always think like, well, for my kids, right? For my family, you do it. Okay, so like, what if you could save two people that weren't your kids? It's like it's still hard, right? But like,
Mhm.
when is there a point where it's like, holy shit, Riley saved like over 25 people in the end. She gave people vision that didn't have vision without her, So it's like, I don't know. I think we should all think about being organ donors. And I think that it's cool as deadheads that, we remember that we got a few extra years to fill because, somebody was an organ donor to me. So, or to Phil. So, anyway, we can get back to our regular scheduled weed stories.
So let's go back to Bobby a little bit. I guess that's where I
Okay, yeah,
got a
do
little
that.
high and lost in my stories. So I got to see a lot of Bobby side projects. A little bit of Rat Dog, and then the later years, Dead and Co. and Wolf Brothers, Wolfpack. Loved that. Um, that's the renditions I seen. Um, they'd come through Detroit, and I got the pleasure of hooking them up a couple times. And I made some mushroom chocolates for Bobby, and I was a little worried that I don't know what he was, he 75 at that point. I was a little worried that he would, I'd give him too much. So I made him in like 1 gram chocolates, and I got the report back that they looked cool and everything, but they were too weak. I'm like, oh shit! I was worried that I was going to overdose Bob Weir on mushrooms. I got to reflect back on that, get a nice chuckle.
It would have been a better
And I
story to overdose them.
and I also gave them guys the golden teachers, which are a little more mellow. And me and my buddies ate uh, the albino penis envies, which I couldn't stand up on those things. So maybe I did the right thing. I don't know.
You know, I also told this story when Bobby died, but I didn't really appreciate him as much in the last couple of years. Like the music had just gotten so slow. Like I would take my daughter every year to a Dead and Company show. We took her to the Sphere and we took her, to one show a year at Shoreline, so she could have the experience. And I had a great time with her, but I just felt like the pace had slowed down so much, and Bobby, his voice wasn't what it used to be. And so I was really giving Bobby a hard time. And then he died, and somebody posted a picture a video of him singing Days Between with the London Philharmonic. And it was so beautiful, and his voice was so beautiful. It was different. He did not have the same voice, but he still had all of his emotion in there. And like I felt so bad because I felt like I wasn't giving Bobby a chance to age gracefully and still like see the beauty in what he was doing. And he had to die, and then all of a sudden I was listening to him more, and I was like, yeah, it's actually beautiful. It's just not
Hmm.
what I had. It's just not what I originally fell in love with. You
Bingo. You're
know,
trying to reflect on it like it was 1989 still, right? Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that actually I think correlates to, we can transfer that conversation to herb, because people have that same feeling about stuff like the sour diesel,
Mm.
and I have this discussion with people. People, dude, this one guy made this video. He's like, the sour diesel's dead. It's as dead as my grandma, and she's been dead for years. And this kid was like, he doesn't even look like he's 30 years old. I'm like, but we don't allow our plants to age with dignity. We think like, oh, that's not the sour diesel because it's old, and it's not the way it was 20 years ago. And cannabis is an annual plant, right? So we expect an annual plant. So for those of you who don't know, an annual plant is a plant that grows for one season, drops seed, and then dies, and then comes back the next year from the new seed. Okay, so the plant's designed to live for a year, and we clone these plants for 20 and 30 years. And when they aren't identical, I mean, they're like, it's as dead as my grandma. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, Josh, no offense, but I know you don't look like you did in 1995 when you were on, at Deer Creek on the lot, you
Right.
know? Probably a little less gray, and, maybe a few pounds lighter. It's
A
like,
little skinnier, a little faster.
yeah,
Could have made it
so
up
it's
over
like,
that fence if I needed to.
so why do we think that a cannabis plant shouldn't age? And the other thing that I say is that some plants age more gracefully than others. It's
Yep.
like we all can't be Jack LaLanne. We all don't, and we all don't take care of ourselves the way others do.
Right.
But like an example is Chem 91, I think has aged beautifully. And I don't think it's lost a step in the last 20 years. I think it's
Hmm.
I think it's incredible that like I've Not So Dog just grew, and I gotta make sure he's not having a problem getting on. Not So Dog just grew some 91, and it was spectacular. It was like as good as most of the 91 that we ever grew. And so like when you see that, it's like, but I think that's also what confuses people, because like the fact that some genetics aged quite nicely and others didn't, because I have a cut, I call it the original sour diesel, but it's just the original because it's the one that my crew has had forever, and it's the same cut. It's not as good as it was 20 years ago. It's just not. But
Yeah.
the genetics in there are the same. If you want to breed with it, you're breeding with the correct stock, you know?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and when I smoke it, I'm still getting a sour diesel experience, And really what we need to do is more breeding work. We need to do more breeding work with sour diesel, and then we will get some nice, vigorous seeds that have the proper terp profile and effect that people are looking for,
Yeah.
and something that's a little bit more vibrant, So, but you can't expect the plant to not age. There's things that we can do to slow it down. Number one, treat our plants kindly and nicely, and then tissue culture. Tissue culture, it does not stop the aging process, but it slows down the aging process pretty significantly. And it makes it way easier to store a large amount of genetics, because a lot of times genetics are lost just because it takes up so much space to keep everything that you've ever come across, right?
Yeah, you brought up some subjects that I have put some thought into,
Go for it.
and have some things to share. Um, so yeah, when you're talking about some of these old elite cuts, it does seem like some of them have aged better than others. But also, the with the grandmother analogy, like, you're not going to put your grandma in an NBA game and expect her to fucking run full court with 20-year-old NBA stars, right? That's kind of how I look at a 30-year-old cut versus a fresh few-year-old genetic clone. Um, I wouldn't stick it into a production situation and expect it to jam like a fresh, vigorous cut of a few years old would. Um, and you've already brought up some key points, like it's supposed to live a year, and we got some of these things 20, 30 years old. Like, well, that's 30 lifetimes for it. It's
Yeah.
very interesting to expect it to perform like it used to. But to be fair, though, when we're talking about smoking for quality, if it doesn't smoke for quality, then it's, okay, well, that's a valid point. Like, yeah, well, you might want to. I recommend, like you said, breeding. Uh, I think if you have good genetics and you combine them, you're going to find equal to or better if you put in the work in the offspring. And then now you have that same similar genetic, maybe not the exact parent, but those same traits with fresh vigor and ready to go for several years before it starts to, go past its prime. Um, so yeah, I think that's a smart move for anybody. Like, I think the old cuts are great, and I love holding on to them. We've got a ton, and it's nostalgic, and it's the experience. But more times than not, they don't perform like they used to. So breeding tools. But yeah, I think somebody that's doing some good work, um, and done the offspring testing, like, that's the way to go. If you want it to really perform or have the fresh, most pungent vigor.
There's nothing like seedling vigor. If you ever,
Hmm.
for people that have only grown clones, when you grow a seed, it's like a baby that just has this desire to grow and get fat, and
Well,
I,
it's got those chemicals like the baby has the placenta, those super vitamins or whatever they are, hormones. Well, I'm not sure what they are, but they allow they allow life to spring up from what, a little tiny cell to giant plant in a month. It's pretty wild. And yeah, I've read. I don't know if this is completely accurate, but seed vigor can add about 25% more vigorous growth than the clone growth. It seems to be, from my experience, that's pretty true.
I would say those are
Significantly more,
fairly
even
conservative.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
as I
would say
said, that's fairly
significantly more
conservative.
sometimes too. Yeah, yeah, depending on the clone that you're running, like, it could outperform it quite a bit.
Somebody wrote taproot vigor. I do not think it has anything to do with the taproot, but we can have that conversation another time. I think it's,
Taproot.
you know, to, well, the only reason why is because
Seed
I'm very,
plant, right?
right, but no, I mean, it does have a taproot. Well,
So if
okay,
you're sticking with the seed plant's got the taproot on it, right?
right. But
That's what's
my
got the
my
vigor.
point is like I'm a big proponent of root pruning, and the
Mm,
sooner that you prune that taproot and force it to branch, you get a much
mm,
more productive root system, and that's because roots absorb most of their water and nutrient from the root tip. So if you have a long tap root that's moving like this, or even shooting far off to the ground, okay, it has to bring the water all the way up from the end of that root, all the way up, you know, to the body of the plant. Okay, and the more that you create a branching root system with lots of root tips, now what you're creating is water and nutrient availability that's much easier for the plant to draw. So I think that there's something else about a seedling that makes it more vigorous. I don't attribute it to the taproot. That's the only reason why I said that. But like
Uh,
you said, like the placenta and the nutrient
that's what
that
it is.
is that's in that seedling, and seeds. Okay, so like cloning is science, but seeds are magic, right? It's like even with a human being, when we make children, they're just vigorous. They want to grow. If you feed them, they go from like something like this to like they're bigger than you before you know it. And it's the same thing I think with cannabis is that with seedlings, there's and for the lack of scientific knowledge, there's magic in there that makes these plants just want to grow. And I think everyone should plant some seeds. I also understand the value of clones. I mean, this is what I do. I supply people with clones, but seeds are just
Oh,
magic. And then also, yeah, I do both. But there's something beautiful in a clone that you know exactly what you're gonna get. And then there's also something
yeah.
beautiful in a seed that you don't know what you're going to get. And, when you see two beautiful people and they have children, you know that those children are generally going to be pretty beautiful. And it's the same thing with cannabis, I think, that when you make good selections, then you end up with plants that are better than the parents.
Well, yeah, and and
Well, it
don't
can
just
be.
have that don't just have that thought that they're two beautiful parents. Like, uh, you know, for me at least, it's how that make you feel. So the beauty would be in their effect. Um, and so, that said, yeah, there's ideally a good chance that you'll have good offspring that have those traits too. But the proof is in growing those out and doing the smoke test and finding out. And that's part of what I think is some good breeding work is to do that testing and prove that's what it is. Because it doesn't always work. You just can't. It doesn't work all the time that you toss two
Right.
beautiful plants together and you get beautiful offspring. They
Right.
might not be what you want.
It's a good point.
um,
Well, you know, I have, you know, I, I'll let you think about things for a minute while I brag about you. I'll prop you up a little bit. But I recently started supplying Blueest Star Seed Company genetics, and they do the best job with it. By they, I mean Josh, does the best job with his packaging. His packaging all has like beautiful photos of the plants and then really
of the
great,
seeds being
yeah,
tested.
right. And then really great descriptions of each one. So here we're looking at the 1998 F4 blueberry. It says a joint with DJ Short's Old World Genetics because you're collabing with DJ. And then on the
Hmm.
back it says 1998 F4 blueberry, which is 1998 F4 blueberry times 1998 F4 blueberry S1, indica sativa hybrid, flowering time 56 to 63 days, 20%, 70 to 84 day. What do you mean by that?
20% are blueberry sativa. They
Oh,
go 10 to 12 weeks.
right.
Yeah, that
Then
was a surprise.
an exquisite product of blueberry muffins, vibrant, juicy fruit, and a bounty of fresh picked blueberries. Expect nothing less than euphoric bliss and complete satisfaction. 100% quality cannabis hemp seeds.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, not everybody puts this type of effort into the packaging.
Well, let me give a shout out to DJ Short for coming up with this style of packaging, and he let me borrow the concept as well. So I use it. And I did skip over the fact that I built a relationship with DJ after doing all that breeding work and coming back and sharing my experiences with them and sharing flower and hash and pictures of the plants. And we got to become friends. And I ended up moving to Michigan, and we built our relationship even further, and we started working together. He started giving me his parent plants to use to breed with, and for specific projects, and giving me old seed lines to reproduce or hunt or do whatever I want to with. Really, he left me pretty carte blanche. Just if we were putting out his pure genetics, he was to be able to look over the plants, smoke the final product, and make sure it was the quality that he was looking for. If we were going to put those out together. So yeah, I kind of left out a little piece there. Yep, DJ Short's my partner. I'm honored
Well,
and blessed to work with him. So that what you were showing off and reading there was DJ Short's 1998 F4 Blueberry Mother that we put into Feminized version, which I'm honored to be able to help him with as well. So he's been using that same mother since 1998 and the same blueberry male since 1998 to make the same original F5 regular male female seed lines. And so here recently we just released these, and that's his F4 mother reversed, and that was a challenging project where talking about one of those 30-year-old plants again, right? So it would reverse and make male pollen sacs, but it really wouldn't drop any pollen. So I tried 3 times to get some seeds. First two times is zero seeds. Third time I had crushed up all the male pods and sprinkled them over the female blueberry plants, and ended up with you know with a room size big enough for 20,000 seeds, but I ended up with like 50 seeds on the third try. So that was a costly R&D venture, challenging, but it was cool just to get. We got exactly 52 seeds. Ironically, I'm a card player, so that was kind of sticks out in my mind. So yeah, I popped all those seeds and selected a juicy fruit female from the S1 population, and we reversed that one, and it dropped plenty of pollen. So that was exciting. So we could put that back onto the 98 F4 mother and keep it purely the F4 98 mother line, just using the S1 back to the mother. And so that's the seed pack that you were showing off there. Um, yeah, really cool to be able to put DJ Short's Blueberry in a feminized version. First time that's ever happened in our history here. So
well, I,
what an
I,
honor, and to be able to reach so many people nowadays that because of plant counts and for whatever any other reason you just don't want to mess with a male, you don't want to breed, so you don't want the male, or you have a restricted plant count. To have feminized seeds is a pretty awesome opportunity, and so that spreads the amount of people that get a chance to experience DJ Short's Blueberry now.
yeah, that's awesome. So I pulled all the seed packs that I got from you and that are available at gabbysi.com. And the other one that like jumped out at me right away that I know people are gonna have heard about is this one over here.
Oh yeah, yep. That's
So
another classic from
Blue
DJ's
Star
lines.
Moonshine.
His Blue Moonshine, which is most people describe that one as the blueberry hash plant, the Afghan side of blueberry, the more potent indica side of blueberry. Very resinous and very flavorful blueberry. And heavy on the Afghan, and there's a narrow leaf in there, but it's mainly an indica dominant line. Um, both of them have that Afghan vibe to them and tons of resin. Uh, the narrow leaf has a little more sweet floral blueberry pie, where the indica side gets to be really rich blueberry syrup and red wine notes. But both are extremely dank blueberry. I mean, I hate to pick favorites, but right now for like the blueberry hybrid work that I did to my Blue Star, making feminized seeds with DJ's parents, that was a pretty big standout.
Nice, and that's
I
the
think people are going to love that. I think a lot of people remember like the really potent blueberry from the 90s, 2000s, somewhere around there. I think the moonshine was one of those main ones.
nice. Then this one also, I mean, we can go through all of them, but this one I was thinking about a lot too, and made me have some questions for you.
Oh, yeah,
Blueberry grapefruit.
that's a favorite. One of my friends, we were growing some of that, and he loved it so much he entered it into the Billy's competition, some flower competition. But a lot of people have made that blueberry grapefruit. Of course, you know, Breeder Steve made his sweet tooth. Chimera made one. I think he called it grapefruit times blueberry. And then I'm sure several other people have made it too. But I had the honor of getting the pink grapefruit cut and then crossing it to that 98 F4 blueberry reversed. And
Do you still have that sweet pink grapefruit?
I don't have it in house, but I've got it. Yeah, I've
Okay.
got a circle
Because
of friends that have it.
I've been given the sweet pink grapefruit. I'm a
Mhm.
authorized propagator for Breeder Steve,
Nice.
but I'm interested if and I've gotten the cut now from two separate people that Breeder Steve has verified that they have the real cut, and one's on the East Coast and one's here in California, and they were
Okay.
both the same cut. But I am interested in seeing if what other people have
Sure.
is is the same plant. But
Yeah, I
what
know
did
where this cut came from, so we can
nice.
talk
I
shop
can
afterward.
yeah, I can also connect you with Breeder Steve because he'd probably love to talk to you too if you have like an old cut of it, just so that he can get the story.
Sure.
But what this made me think about is, what do you think the New York City diesel from Soma smells like?
I honestly don't have experience with that. I mean, I feel
Oh,
like I've smoked it, but like it's few and far between. Like I have a lot more experience with the East Coast sour diesel and then sour diesel derivatives, just different named sour diesels, you know.
yeah.
So
I
Somas I don't really know much about. Some people called it grapefruity. I don't know.
yeah, I think it's really grapefruity,
Yeah.
and we recently got and I did get a little high already from all this shit, so forgive me, folks. But the strawberry lemon G from Sarakoya, and that one to me reminds me of the New York City diesel, which
Hmm.
reminds me of like grapefruit, you
Yeah.
know? And I just, I want to get this herb because I have a little bit of it, of this strawberry lemon G. I want to get it to people that are familiar with Soma's New York City diesel because I want to know if my palate is tasting what other people, and if my palate's remembering what other people are remembering. But it's super interesting herb. It's like really unique, but not very potent. Definitely takes two joints to get you there. But I always say, oh, you get to smoke two instead of just one. You get to have that pleasurable experience
Oh
for
yeah,
that
and you know
much
a lot of
longer.
people don't want that knockout potency. So like it's
Exactly.
a blessing to be able to burn one, enjoy a full joint, and still be able to function and like do your daytime tasks and not slow you down and like get the dude where's my car vibe. Um, but another thing that popped in my mind we were talking about a while back with seeds and starting your own seeds. And one of the cool opportunities there is, clones are amazing, right? Like, selected and elite for a reason. If you get enough people that stand behind it, like it should have that decent quality attribute most of the time. Sometimes they're, you know, pretendicos. Uh, but, uh, if you start your own seed, you aren't going upon what other people think is good. You get to select for yourself what is good for you. And that's really what, in my opinion, what this experience is all about is finding what works well for yourself.
Yeah, it's really hard. I had this discussion with somebody because I think as a breeder, like it depends on, are you doing this at home just for your personal? In that case, breed for your personal taste. But as a breeder or as a supplier, or somebody that does both, I think it's important to address a couple of things. Okay, I think giving people what they currently want is good, right? Like, you know, you can hate on runts all you want, and it's not my favorite, but if you're a nursery, if like you're a licensed nursery in California for say, and you're not selling runts, you're just giving up a huge share of potential sales. And the whole idea of being a nursery is to be able to pay the bills, survive, and maybe put an extra couple of bucks in your pocket. So I always think a good strategy is 30%, and these are numbers that can fluctuate, right? But just to make it easy to understand, do 33% of something that people want now, okay? Then do 30% of what you feel the trend is moving towards for the future, okay? Because you don't want to react too late. So if you want to try to look at market trends and react to what you think is happening, which is crystal ball shit. It's hard to do, right? And then the other 33% is you trying to create the trends and innovate. Okay? If you try to just do 100% innovation, it's just an uphill battle. You're like fighting people all along the way that don't understand yet what you're trying to do. And so it just takes time. And in that time, you need to be able to survive. And so that's why I like the 33, 33, 30% rule for a nurseryman is like,
Yeah, well, yeah. Now you're differentiating a nursery versus like a breeder. So, like, I can speak for myself because everyone's got their own goals and perspectives. But my goal as a breeder is how it smokes, the quality of how it smokes, and so finding something equal to or better than the parents I used. Otherwise, what's the point of it? For me, I want to advance it. So, from a breeding perspective, it's my passion, my love that drives it. So that's what I recommend telling people: just do what you love, and I don't think you can go wrong. At
I
least
mean,
you're.
it's really awesome when it works out. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me give you an
Well,
example. Let me give you an example. Really easy one, I think, to understand. And I made a post about it last week. Citrus terps. I love them. The general market right now hates them. Okay, so and hate is a terrible word that I even said in my thing. They don't appreciate it. They don't have the palate for it. They don't appreciate it, right? And so if I love tangy, and I will breed with tangy and citrus type strains, right? But if I focus on that right now because I love it, I better have another way to make an income. Okay. Now you happen to be focusing on some old school shit that people love. So you're able to have the blessing of doing what you love and doing well that way, right?
right, fair.
But
That's
but
fair.
but
Yeah,
but if your shit was citrus, we wouldn't be having this same conversation.
that might be.
It's just,
Yeah, that might be true.
so I think it's still important to love what you do. And I still think you can love what you do and still give people what they want.
Sure, you can still
Like,
work. You can still work to pay the bills and still
yeah,
follow your passion. Right.
yeah.
Um, I'd say the more you can line it up, though, the better life's going to be for you. The more you're not fighting life and doing what you're just doing what you want to do instead of being forced.
If you're one of those people that hate citrus and citrus ends up becoming the next big thing, then you're just hating it because you're like growing all this stuff that you don't like, So um, I'm still looking at all these packs and I want you to tell us about them.
Yeah. What we got there? Oh, the Juicy Fruit Kush. That's the Josh DOG Kush to DJ Short's Blueberry. So the classic Blueberry OG with a couple of the pinnacle, OG and blueberry that there is. Phenomenal. The pairing of blueberry and OG works extremely well. Um, Very dominant in OG phenotype. And then when you go to the blueberry side, you get a lot of the juicy fruit coming out. And the OG does a great job. That fuel, in my opinion, really does a great job bringing out the pungent flavors of things that you cross it to. At least for me, I do a lot of blueberry work, and it really pops out the blueberry. In this case, the juicy fruit on that cross.
This one is one that I'm excited to see some finished flower on when it's ready. Hint, hint.
The juicy fruit kush, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just because a
Yeah,
combination of OG and blueberry
yeah.
just sounds, you know,
My
that
buddy
that sounds
just
like what I would want.
I don't have any in the system right now, but my buddy just ran several and found some killer ones. And I think he found a grape in there, which I didn't find originally in my original hunt. But so yeah, we'll see if he's got some nice flower to share. I'm sure he will.
So here we have Navy
Oh, okay.
Cross.
You'll like that one, I think. So that is uh, a
Sour diesel.
sour diesel to blueberry, and so we got DJ Short's blueberry, and that's the not so sour cut. And I had the chance to grow the not so out, and it's got a nice pungent diesel leaning sour versus several of the other East Coast and different named sours that I've ran. So
Not
sour
so the
blueberry, that's my wheelhouse. The fuel in the blueberry, the soaring high, and the relaxing euphoria blended together, and the flavors are just out of this world. Sour does an amazing job. It's my favorite one for crossing to enhance like the blueberry nose.
nice. And I will just remind everybody that they can find all this shit on gabbysi.com. And here we have the is this canned or candied? Candied blueberries.
Yep, and that's the original Skittles cut crossed to DJ's blueberry and paired extremely well. Every plant has that candied fruit Skittles flavor. Some of them are really heavy on the blueberry side, and some of them go towards like the floral candy blueberry. And then the other side, what really was a predominant trait in all these for blueberry crosses, the Afghan slight putrid side came out in a lot of these. You might think of like the classic, like dank, like Northern Lights type of putridness. So and Putrid does a great job of making the flavor profile really pop too. So those things are really nice, full flavored plants. You can't hardly miss on the candied blueberries.
I think this is the last one of the joint project
Okay.
with DJ Short, the Hollywood Blues.
Yeah, okay. I was showing that off a little bit earlier when you were running around. So that's the Hollywood Pure Kush cut. Some people call it like the Marshmallow OG. It's definitely got a sweetness with its funk, with its pine and fuel nose. Hints of lime as well. Paired with that juicy fruit, it both OGs just really brought out the juicy fruit. You have 50-50 ratio of amazing OG phenotypes to the juicy fruit OGs. Hmm.
Nice. What are these holographic stickers that you put on?
Oh, those are just
Are the,
tamper-proof seals, I think they call them. So when you rip the pack open, it'll show that it came apart, basically. So they're
but
just
is the
verifying that they're unopened.
but is the number, is that a unique number to every
Yeah,
pack?
each one has its own unique serial code, I guess you'd call it. Yeah.
And you use that to like track things, like if you know, track germination rates and stuff like that over years.
No, not for that purpose. It's mainly for tamper-proof seal. It's just so you can, see that they haven't been opened and adulterated. You're getting the original packaging is basically what it is. So when you
Nice.
pop that open, you'll know that it's been opened at that point.
Right. I'm looking through here. These were all the DJ Short joint project, and then this is just your own work, your stuff that's not the the
Not
partnership
using
with.
not using a GJ Short male or parents basically.
Right.
Yeah, so these are like my Blue Star crossed to itself or to other elite clones that I really enjoy. So Sherb Star is a pretty cool one. That's the Sherb cake cut, the green side of Sherb, an amazing blueberry heavy kush. and sherbet notes, and extremely resinous, great for rosin. Just had a friend run it and tested it at 48%. That's fun to hear, but uh, potent. I'll say that it's very potent.
Then we got some blueberry apple cobbler.
Yep, that's the apple fritter cut to my Blue Star. So apple and blueberries blended together. Another heavy Kush. I feel like the Kush side really comes out. I think a Kush lover's delight there with blueberry and apple flavors. Kind of that baked pastry profile that comes out in a lot of DJ's blueberry work. It's like a blueberry pie or blueberry muffins. That word's used a lot, but it's like a baked blueberry.
I think I only have one more pack over here that's not that we haven't gone through yet, and this
Okay.
one is the Bliss.
My friend's old collected cut of Island Sweet Skunk crossed to Blue Star. The Island Sweet Skunk is a narrow leaf, very sativa oily leading strain that has a dominant skunk one, menthol eucalyptus vibe to it with a heavy tropical fruit. And the Blue Star brought in some of the sour diesel and blueberry on top of the tropical fruit. Uh, I think a lot of old heads are going to love the Island Sweet Skunk cross.
Nice. Now, is that Sweet Skunk? Is that Breeder Steve's work, or is that another Sweet Skunk?
So the cut itself, I used a clone. It was 20 some years old. I don't have verification of what seed line they got it from. Um, so I think I'm not positive. Breeder Steve started it, and then like Federation did knockoffs of it. And so you have like those versions, I think, right there. Those two. It'd be one of those two. I can't verify. Uh, it's a
Nice.
great smoke. A
I
great smoke and full flavor. That menthol eucalyptus and skunkiness comes through in every single one, and it's just a rich, unique profile. Have that
That's
pack with
awesome.
me.
I'm I'm feeling blessed with all these awesome genetics that
Yeah. So
Josh
another
has
cool
sent
thing
over.
about being able to share a cool picture on the front of the package that's actually a picture of the flower that was grown from the seed line uh, is on the back of the package, and you did a good job reading through on one of them. But I'd like to give some key details to make so people can make an informed decision. So you have the basics. You have the lineage. You have the type of the hybrid that it is, but don't pay so much attention to the type of the hybrid. Look for how I describe the effect, because that's really what you're looking for, generally speaking, when we're talking about type of the hybrid. Unless you're talking about flowering time, which I list as well, and then I just give a brief couple sentences on flavor, aroma, and effect, so you can make an informed decision on what genetic you want to eat. Well, may work for you. Where
Yeah,
a lot of these seed packs, they just don't have the space to put anything on there. People just get put the name on there, and you just can't pick up much from a name besides maybe what's in it.
Rand is asking, are any of them sativa dominant? And I'm sure more than one. So which ones are the
Yes,
ones that you'd say are most
off the
sativa
top of what
dominant?
you showed is that Bliss is very sativa dominant. It'll be narrow leaf. It finishes fairly decent though, still in flowering time. Does really well outdoors. Uh, but like most sativa dominants, just a heads up for the rosin heads, most sativa dominants that I've experienced at least are not on the washer side. They have oily resins on the leaf surface, which can't be trapped into the trichome head collected for rosin. But amazing quality smoke, and I'm sure amazing like if you do a different form of hash.
Sweet.
The blueberry grapefruit leans really. I would call it sativa necessarily, but it leans very 50-50, very relaxing. The grapefruit high and the blueberry high paired extremely well together. And man, equal to or better, no problem on the flavor. The grapefruit just amazing, amazing, comes out amazing. And then you get the hint of the blueberry in the mixed phenotypes, and you're in heaven. That blueberry grapefruit is special.
So have people have been asking questions throughout the stream,
Yeah.
and I told people that we were gonna just wait a minute till you got some of your story out. But now, if people want to ask some questions if they're in the live. We've got about 150 people watching live, which I'm grateful for every one of you. Also, if you guys could press the thumbs up button, it makes it so that more people see this video. And, when you get a chance, now or later, if you could share this video with other people, we would be grateful for that. So,
Mm.
let's see what it says. When you cross a sour diesel with the blueberry, you come out with a strong effect, from what I understand. I would, I would think so.
Yeah, is that the question?
It doesn't sound like a question; it sounds like a
Well,
statement.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, uh, blueberry is generally more relaxing. DJ bred blueberry to be kind of that middle of the road, not couch lock, not zippy up sativa like. He wanted satisfaction, relaxation. Some people call it anti-anxiety. Some of the flow strains. So you have that side with the blueberry, and then the sour diesel tends to me. I describe it as it creates a really powerful stone, a soaring high right off the bat for me. And it's long lasting. Both of them are long lasting, so that makes them pair really well together. And then you blend them, and then you just have the upfront rush and the power of the sour and the diesel side, and it balances to that beautiful euphoric bliss. It's my favorite type of effect, and I love all cannabis really, but there's certain ones I gravitate up to a lot more.
So Chad Westport asks, talk about hybrid vigor. Are you taking these older strains and mixing with newer and diverse genetics to get more vigor?
Yeah, that's part of the benefit for sure. Is when you make an outcross, you definitely get a lot more vigor in the outcross. Sometimes when you stick with the IBLs, the inbred lines, you run into a little bit of bottlenecking or a loss of vigor. But honestly, if you get enough diversity in your inbred lines, and there's different ways to do that with line breeding, um, and still create uh, good hybrid vigor. Um, you still have the advantage of that starting from seed, and that adds a lot of opportunity to create the vigor too.
So we have another question here. What is the difference between the Navy Cross V1 and V2, and will there be a V3?
There probably will be, not like in the works yet, but yeah, I'll probably end up making another round because that's my favorite thing is sour diesel and blueberry. So the original version was my friend Stoney's old sour cut he collected, very much on the more sour side, if you want to describe it that way. Those type of notes versus being a more pungent diesel. And That was crossed to DJ Short's 1998 F4 Blueberry male for a male female line. Uh, so um, it created a little more of the truer blueberry sour phenotypes versus the V2 has the juicy fruit. So it brings a different character than the pure blueberry did. So those are the two differences: feminized for the V2 and different parents but the same lineage. So Stony Sour and DJ's Blueberry 98 Blueberry Male on the V1, and then V2 is a feminized, not so sour, which is the more pungent diesel crossed to the juicy fruit Blueberry S1 Male
Nice.
or female. Sorry, female.
We got a question from J Togger 93 asking, what is the best way to preserve your seeds? So why don't you tell people how you preserve your seeds?
Well, cool, dark, and dry is great. You should get several years, 3, 5, 10 years, just depending. But I recommend cool, dark, and dry in a fridge. And I popped 15-year-old gear, get 75-80% out of it. I popped 30-year-old gear, got 11% out of it. So like it's crazy how long they can last. But boy, like a few months or a year out in a hot room where if the sun through the windows hitting it, you might fry them. So there's the volatility in it. Cool, dark, and dry. Fridge is a good scenario in my opinion.
Somebody asks, what's the best type of indica that you have or that you've made?
Oh, well, so probably, just off what comes to mind recently is the Blue Star Moonshine. Really has my heart. It's the DJ's indica side of the blueberry line. Very trichome laden, very very blueberry flavored compared to. I mean, you got blueberry, then you have blue moonshine, in my opinion, for the blueberry flavor that really pops out. Um, and a lot of the Afghan comes out in that too. So, I mean, if you're into the blueberry Afghan indica, I think you'll be in love with that Blue Star Moonshine.
Nice. Someone asked earlier, how'd you come up with 4 seeds in a pack?
Well, uh, we like to try different things. When I first started working with DJ, high-end seed pack pricing was around a few $100 a pack, and so we were, DJ was doing that, and some of our first releases were around that $200 or $300 price point, and we were doing smaller batch sizes on some of these projects that I was working on, just aiming for a few hundred packs, be able to, not make too many to where we just were sitting on them and could, satiate the market with enjoy that many packs. Uh, so we did well. We did the OTM and some hybrids with the blueberry and sold out pretty much all of them. But with the way the market changed and the advent of newer, younger people coming into buying seeds, um, we looked at how can we make it more affordable because there's only so many people that can afford that $200 or $300 pack. But like pretty much anybody that's looking to buy a cannabis seed could probably afford that $40 to $60 pack. So
Right.
that's what we're looking for is like how can we make it affordable, still make it a decent price point, to compete with what we consider our genetics are. DJ's been around doing this for 50 years, the most proven provenance of almost anybody, right? So like he should be at that top tier with any other top tier genetic. So we're trying to find that middle point of making it affordable for people and still keep that value. And so for these feminized lines, we chose 4 seats, so you could be down to around a $40 to $60 price point per pack, and a lot more people have access to them now, and it's seemed to be a very positive move. We reach a lot more people with the size of a pack than when we were, doing the 10 to 13 seat packs, and they were up that $200 to $300 price point.
Yeah, and they can always buy more than one pack.
Yep, you get
So like,
variety now,
so
right? Yep,
or even if you want to buy more of the same pack, it gives you
yep,
options. Says if you want 4, you can buy 4. If you can buy 8, if you want to buy 8, you can buy 8, and you're not
exactly.
limited by having to buy that 8 at that higher price. So, Mr. Chad Westport asks a question which I think you answered already, but we'll still answer it again, which is when he says indica and sativa, is he referencing morphology or effects or what? We know everything is mainly hybrid, so how does he apply indica and sativa?
That's a great question. And while I referenced earlier when I was talking about the descriptions on the back of my pack, look for the effect more than the indica and sativa, because the truth is, I think most people, when they hear indica and sativa, gravitate towards the effect. What does that mean? Indica is probably more couch lock, sativa is more uplifting, more daytime, potentially. But as like real connoisseurs know, uh, it runs the gamut. Like you can have some devastating sativas, some paranoid sativas, some paranoid indicas, some relaxing. So you have those effects in everything. So overall, what kind of effect does the individual plant or the tested offspring of the entire line, that vibe give off? That's what I really lean towards. So it's very common to have in the pack still. I've been debating on taking it off the pack for a long time, but it is a driver in sending people towards a starting point of understanding what type of effect that might be. So generally speaking, when I put indica sativa, it's mainly for to describe slightly the type of effect. That's mainly what I'm talking about.
One thing that I'm not seeing here, and it's not just that I don't see it here, I don't see it on most things, is how does it grow? Like for me, when we're talking about sativas or indicas, a big thing that's valuable for the people to know is like the difference that these plants will grow. Like, is the plant gonna like want to be like sour diesel, which wants to get really big, gonna be a little bit harder to grow in a tent, or is it going to want to stay nice and squatty, and so, or like for instance, and you do put the flowering time, but is this thing going to take 100 days to flower, or is it going to take 60 something days to flower? That to me is more like what we find in the difference between, and they're called sativas, but that's probably just not even accurate either. It's just like long flowering plants versus the shorter flowering plants.
That's that's a fair way to use indica sativa, I think too. But that's why it becomes confusing,
Yeah,
is
but
because people.
people want the stuff, on the label. At least they're not demanding for THC content on the labels, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I'm not a big fan of the THC proving anything, but you know, the proof is in how it smokes, and if it lights you up, then who cares what number that is? And a lab test can't tell you that. That's my opinion of that. I mean, there's value to a lab test, but it's not how it smokes. How it smokes is, your opinion and your lungs and your mind and what it does for you.
so this has been asked more than once. I don't know if by the same person or by different people. They said, "Do you still have and use the blueberry F4 male?"
Yep. And it's been a while since I've used it, but yeah, we still have it. DJ's made all kinds of stuff. I've tested a few things, and he just kind of releases them at his leisure when he wants to. But there's some cool stuff made and tested already. Like I've showed a few pictures of like a purple tie cross. That was with a different male. To be fair, he has been playing around with some different males. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what he's done with the F4 blueberry male actually here lately. He used a 95 pretty Kush male that was pretty amazing on a bunch of stuff, like a uh, like a great crush. I'm trying to get him to get out there. It's amazing. That purple tie cross I was telling you about, it's amazing. A temple flow cross, that's amazing with that male. But yeah, we still have the 98 male. Like he still uses that to produce the F5 original blueberry male female seeds and the original flow seeds as well. And yeah, we'll probably put it in use eventually. But gosh, it's like it's been used since '98. I like to try different things, so I mix it up. Like when I did the original my original hybrids after I did the OTM cross with DJ, which was the first thing that we put out together. I reproduced Old Time Moonshine, which is an offspring of Blue Moonshine, and a real low seed set plant, like aiming for several thousand seeds and get like 50 seeds or 100 seeds. I had to make that project 3 times too. Um, but so I used the F4 Blueberry Male onto some cool cuts that we had: GMO, Grease Monkey, Sour Diesel, maybe one or two others I can't think of off the top of my head. And so those were some of the first like hybrid releases I had done with DJ's Blueberry Male and Elite Cuts. Um, but yeah, I just thought it was fun to start trying different things. So I've really dig into my Blue Star work. Um, but there's certainly we'll probably end up making some more things with it. I just don't have any specific plans as of right now.
You see what
That
I'm
is,
showing right now?
hell yeah, that's a big juicy cola right there. That's the
This is
my
the
mind's
sativa
going the
one.
Frankie's
Hold
Holy
up.
Haze.
Yeah.
This is the oh yeah. So we were talking about the sativas earlier. I didn't mention this. So this is an incense haze female from Camara's work called Simply Irresistible, frankincense dominant. He crossed a incense haze to the Sweet Skunk clone, and amazing. church haze flavors that passed on extremely well into the feminized cross that I did to Blue Star. So we added that sour diesel Afghan and blueberry from the Blue Star on top of this incense haze, but it's frankincense dominant. It's like you're at the church. It's phenomenal. Foxtail is like beautifully crazy. Large spear tip colos. Uh, there's the purple phenotype. The green phenotypes are even more pungent and brighter colored, with a hint of citrus behind them. But frankincense is the dominant profile, and those blue ones can go diesel and blueberry as well.
Well,
But the haze lovers, the Frankie's lovers, it's the best one
this
I've
is
had.
this is another one of those that when there's a little something ready, I want to taste it because in our conversations you were telling me that you think it's just the most beautiful haze that you've seen in years.
Yeah,
And
smoked.
what contrary to what Not So Dog has said about me in the past, I do not hate hazes. Um, and I'm wanting to learn to appreciate them more. The thing is to be honest with you, I haven't had the exposure to them. Like in California, it just hasn't been grown very much for decades and decades. When I used to go to Holland, then I could get the amnesia and all that stuff. The closest stuff that we had over here was like the super silver haze,
Hmm.
which I don't even consider that like that type of haze.
Right.
So
I don't either, actually.
I really love
I
what
like it though.
the Budulero guys are doing. So shout out to Budulero here in Northern California. They do only long flowering strains there as their
Hmm,
specialty.
cool.
But yeah, I really, and just so that everyone out there in the universe knows, Gabby wants to smoke more haze. So, you can help make that happen. We got another question here from Chad that was a good one, but I got to scroll back to find it.
Okay.
Oh, he says, this is a great question. Any suggestions for keeping males alive for years? Um, is he flowering to collect pollen or just cloning after 6 or 9 months? And so, before I let you answer, I'm going to say a couple of things. Number one, tissue culture. This is the best way to preserve all sorts of plants for long periods of time. And male plants are commonly lost
Hmm.
because of space, as well as they just want to flower, and that can cause problem if you have, you know, female flowering, in the area. You get a little paranoid about that stuff. So, first thing is tissue culture. It's not as hard as you think, particularly if we're talking about nodal tissue culture. Okay, if we're not doing meristem, it's not as hard as you think, and putting your male plants into tissue culture is awesome. I I believe that when you pack a pack of seeds, when you pack a pack of seeds, say that 5 times fast, putting these genetics into tissue culture as soon as possible is really what you want to do. And the reason why is because I find that people are regularly having to make decisions about which plants they're going to eliminate sooner than you want to. You're running out of space and you're like, all right, I got to choose which one. And really, the best thing to do is to grow them. And I always tell the story like, if we were pheno hunting and just looking at some characteristics of the plants, the Chem 91 wouldn't exist because it's a shitty little plant that doesn't want to grow. And so without like fully flowering it and you're making these decisions based on a stem rub or based on structure, so I'm not saying that we don't have to make these decisions eventually, but I think being able to put the plants in tissue culture really extends the amount of time that you have to make that decision. And then you're always keeping the clean stuff, even, with males or with females. I just think it's super valuable. The other thing is, I have struggled with the same thing that Chad's talking about. If I have male plants and they get big and they just want to flower, What I do is I just keep cloning off of them. And when I keep cloning off of them, it slows that down, but doesn't stop it. So tell us what you do, Josh, and I'm going to shut my windows real fast.
Sure. You touched on something else there that I was gonna reference as well. Dang it, I lost it. Let me just talk about something else. So genetics, selection. A lot of males want to just flower and not revert back to veg. So you need to hunt and find something that will have some of that stability, because if it's going to go into flower on you consistently, it's going to be hard to keep. It'll be pretty easy for it to start flowering and fizzle out on you. And then Gabby touched on a lot of the basics. DJ talks about rejuvenating plants outdoors during the summer and taking clones from those, so they can get fresh natural environment and sunlight, and potentially bring health back to them. So keeping your plants really healthy, that's a key. Um, Keeping your male cloned and in rotation to where it doesn't get too mature and start to flowering on you. Um, Keep a decent amount of root space for your male, so it doesn't trigger that way. I think there's a lot of tools for you right there to keep a male around for a long time. I mean, DJ's got this one from '98 and it's stable. That's not all his males are stable. Like, not all anybody's males are stable. It's hard to find one that doesn't want to jump into flowering on you. So that's where I was talking about, selecting and finding one that can do that for you. And then combined with all the other tricks there, and really nothing replaces keeping them healthy. If you can keep a few backups, that way if you have one that's a little unhealthy, you've just got another one hopefully that's healthy, and you can grow that one out and get a healthy clone off of that to keep it rolling. I don't know much about TC, but it seems like a decent opportunity for keeping stuff fresh as well, like Gabby touched on.
Well, we're going to
But,
teach you a little something about TC. Something else that I think here is really cool that I want to share with everybody, and it's a little bit hard. I should have been more prepared and downloaded some of these images first. But, here we go. Let me share this with you guys. Share screen, window. I think that's it. Nope. I was trying to share your Blueest Star box set.
oh, that's a fun story. Yeah.
Yeah, well, tell the story while I try to share
Yeah,
the
I'll get one of
page.
the boxes too. I got some cool new stickers too.
Okay,
I'll have
here
to
we
send
go.
you. I'll have to send you
Yeah.
some to send out to people to get some seeds. Oh, there's the box set. Yep.
So tell everybody what the project is and
All
what they're
right. So
getting
this
in the
was a
box
fun
set.
one where I did a reciprocal cross where I took my Pinnacle Blue Star mother plant, the blueberry pie dessert wine, and crossed it to Chem 91. And I reversed the Chem 91. So the Chem 91 was the pollen donor. And then I made another cross using Chem 91 as the mother and reversing Blue Star as the pollen donor. So both crosses use the exact same two parents, just both as females and both as pollen donors. So in this way, you can explore how maternal traits potentially pass on in offspring. It's a fascinating study that I made and did, and thought would be fun to share with the community. Weed nerds and people that just love blueberry sour diesel and chem are going to love the project in and of itself. So the box set has a 4 feminized seed pack of both of those lines that I just described, where Chem 91 is the mother and pollen donor, and Blue Star is the mother and pollen donor. So you can grow them side by side and see how how the mother influences the offspring. Um, and so there's I called the blueberry leaning phenotype, where the Blue Star is the mother, the blue axis, and the Chem 91 uh, line where the Chem was the mother as the Chem axis. And Included in the box set is also a pack of Chem 91 S1s, the matriarch of the line, to compare its growth and what traits are passed on in the offspring as well. So you get three 4 seed feminized packs in this box set, 12 total seeds. And
And
they retail for $100.
these are currently not on GabbySI.com, but you can get them directly from Blue Star. So hit them up at
Oh, you're going to have them real soon
info@bluestarseeds.com.
too.
Oh, well, cool. Obviously I'm
Support
excited
Gabby.
about it with my, but I thought it was really cool. I do a sour diesel box set, and
Oh,
people really they like it, and so I'm I'm excited to see this. And I saw your photos of the S1, and it looks legit.
oh, those are phenomenal. Those S1s are, I mean, they're true chems. uh, they and then there's like a 1 in 10 really rank skunk phenotype in those S1s that popped out. That was pretty wild too. We got some stickers for the DJ Short Blue Star collab, the joint project stickers.
Nice. A
I'll send
blue.
you some swag to share with everybody that buys some seeds.
Do it.
It's always fun. Got some stickers made, and my wife made these little pins for us. Put on your shirt or hat or backpack or whatever.
Nice. If you connect with Louis Farmstrong,
Uh, I, I had a couple friendly conversations with Louis. Yeah.
he's awesome. He like made me hats with like leather patches. He makes leather stuff. He
Oh,
makes
okay.
me stickers. He totally hooks it up, and he also
Nice.
makes sure that we don't see any hate in the chat. So
Oh, all
if
right.
people
We
if
appreciate that.
yeah, if people talk stupid shit, he just deletes them. I haven't seen anything, so I don't know if he had to delete anyone today. But hey, a few things that I still want to make sure we touch on. It's already 2 hours and 10 minutes in, and I wanted to make sure we touched on some stories. You guys can keep asking questions, and I'll scroll up and try to answer them. But you told me to remind you about someone that said that they didn't think I smoked weed, and we thought that was a funny story. So,
Okay.
and then
Well,
also, I wanted to touch on, and you can tell whichever story you want first. I wanted to touch on the band bud because
okay.
Not So Dog tells stories that I had told him about the band bud, and you had have your stories with this, and we recently talked with somebody that says like it's their families, so it's all interesting stuff. I don't know if you want to talk about the fact that I fake smoking weed, or the band
I,
bud first. But while we do that, I'm gonna take a dab of
all
this
right.
beautiful Blue Star, 4 Blue Stars, number 19 rosin, which it's beautiful. It really is, brother. And I
Thank you.
appreciate you gifting me this.
Yeah. Well, thank you, DJ, for keeping that blueberry going for so long, and that's where that blueberry comes from, right there. Um.
Nice.
So, so yeah, I didn't know we were gonna bring up that story
Oh well,
live. Okay.
which story?
The
The
my
about me
buddy,
not
my
smoking
buddy
weed?
thinking you didn't smoke weed.
Oh, I like to fuck with myself as much as the next, like so. But
My
go ahead.
my buddy just was talking about a video he saw you in, and you were like short puffing your vape, and you were kind of on a rant about, your old buddy Skunk VA or something, talking about that stuff, and it just looked like to him that you were just like not really
Barely hitting
inhaling
it.
your vaporizer, you were just puffing on it basically. So he's like, man, this guy doesn't even smoke weed. I don't know if I trust him.
I think that what he's saying is actually accurate. Not that I don't smoke weed or that I shouldn't be trusted, but I was short puffing it. And I remember seeing the video thinking that too. But you know what? When you smoke as much herb as I do, sometimes do that, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, and I was very nervous in that video. Okay, like I remember watching it and being like, "Holy shit!" Like I was a nervous wreck because it was like a really personal subject. I wasn't happy about it. I wasn't really comfortable talking about it. I don't know if that's the way it seemed to everybody, but I was pretty nervous. And so yeah, it's okay. But like I think first of all, I don't have to prove to anyone that I smoke weed, but like every week after week, I get so fucking blasted on this show that like a couple of hours deep, people are like, "Oh man, Gabby's really high." It's the first time that anyone ever said that I'm faking smoking weed, so I thought that
You
was
enjoyed
funny.
that, huh?
So, Not So Dog, by the way, he's having kid issues, and he said he was going to try to get on, but like, you know, he's a
Well,
dad. He's a dad with,
yeah.
I like to say he's got about 15 kids because I think he has like 3 or 4 kids of his own, and then he has an adopted daughter, and then like his house is where all the kids hang out. So like there's often like 10 or 15 teenagers in his house. Um, so, but yeah, so unfortunately, Not So Dog didn't join us, but I told him this story and he's repeated it that I used to get this weed on the dead lot that we were told was the band bud. And we would buy it and it would come, we'd get an ounce that was vacuum sealed, but in the vacuum seal, there was 4 addition wax paper bags inside, like a sandwich bag,
Hmm.
but it was wax paper, which was to this day, I don't understand why they would ever put it in that because it didn't have a seal on the end. So, like, we'd buy these ounces, and then, the whole idea, as with anything, is you try to sell it to make your quarter or, whatever you can get, right? But, like, so we were like giving people this herb, and it was in a just wax paper bag. You were reeking. Walking down the lot, you was just fucking reeking of bud. And, I never had any like proof that it was weed grown from the band. Like, it could have been complete bullshit, but the only thing that made it make sense was number one, it was amazing weed, right? So like, if it's amazing weed, you don't have to add some stupid story to it. Like people are gonna buy it anyway, and it wasn't like priced like crazy or anything either. So like, why tell the story, right? The other thing is, it was only available to us at the shows and throughout the country, not just in California. So I don't know. Might have been the band bud. And apparently you had experiences where. So I first saw the band bud, I think it was like Cal Expo and Shoreline 1990. And I believe that I had it available to me like till maybe 91. And then I stopped traveling so much. I lived in California. I moved to California late 91. And then I was just like going to see Jerry at the Warfield and the occasional shows like at the Oakland Coliseum or the Henry J. Kaiser. But I don't know, I lost connection like finding that band bud right around that time. So tell us your recollection of the band bud, and hopefully soon we're
Well,
going to have this guy on the podcast soon.
so as far as the band bug goes, my part of the story doesn't have anything to do with that name. Um, but not too long ago, I received an old clone, and it attracted a few people when I shared some pictures of it. And this one person who I became friends with, he told me a story about his family um, bringing that genetic back from Amsterdam and starting up that seed line. And they were friends with the Grateful Dead, and that became the Grateful Dead's weed from that time frame up until the end there in '95. And so that old clone that I received was uh, called Early Pearl. So to me, it was an interesting story because I love the Grateful Dead and I love cannabis, of course, and I love the Pearl lines. We brought back some silver Pearl in like 94, 95. I feel like maybe 97, 98. I'm horrible at time frames, but around there. Um, and we grew that all genetic for a long, long time. Eventually got crossed into a few things to be preserved. Um, G13, and then I did a couple other crosses with it. But yeah, the early Pearl, the old cut that was shared with me is a 20-some-year-old cut, and very flavorful, very skunky, and with a front end fruity note. Um, dense, dense indica, short squat, round, early finisher. Um, great, amazing herb. And yeah, this dude opened up and told me this story about how his family grew it. He was really young, and described his experiences sharing it with the dead. And so I'm not positive, but maybe that's that band bud. I don't know. Uh, but
So you never got the band bud like on the lot?
not named as the band bud, but I told you I thought I got the early pearls. What I thought I got. Now that I know what it is, yeah.
Nice. One thing that most people don't realize is like the Grateful Dead lot was the marketplace for cannabis. And I mean, not
Mhm.
just cannabis, obviously, right? A whole bunch of other substances. But like, for
Anything.
instance, you know, when I started growing in 91 and nobody knew, right? Like I wasn't trying to like tell my friends or like, you know, and most of my shit would go on the dead lot, like it was an easy way to get rid of all your herb really quickly without like exposing yourself to like people knowing that like this is your shit from your home, and then there was like in between tours, it would become a big struggle. Like in between summer tour and fall tour, there could be like a few months when you're like, shit, like I need to sell this herb to pay my bills. And that's actually how I ended up, meeting, VA Skunk was, in the panhandle of Golden Gate Park, like I was like, and it's crazy to think now, like I didn't want to sell my herb to people that I knew locally, but I wanted to go to like the shadiest spot that you could possibly go to. I mean, maybe it's not the shadiest, like you could go to the Tenderloin, I guess, but like, the panhandle was heated. The cops were like all over that place, undercover, and, because it was like open market drug sales over there, so like instead of doing it like close to home with friends and like I would like go to like an hour and a half to San Francisco and hang out in the shadiest park, and that's where I would meet people and sell my herb, like when Dead Tour wasn't happening. But man, like when the Grateful Dead were playing, it didn't matter how much herb you had. Like, and okay, I'm saying that nobody ever showed up with like 100 pounds, but like, we'd show up with like a couple of pounds and then that shit would go in like quarters and eighths and it was gone. And, so yeah, the good old days of Grateful Dead tour. So, Ohio Terp Queen says, my father told me about the early pearl and lost pearl and made it sound legendary. He says he's 73 this year, and Thai stick and Panama red he had back in the day. That's awesome, Ohio Terp Queen.
Yeah, I was a little
Yeah,
before my time. Thai stick and Panama Red. Maybe I smoked some Panama Red. No, I don't think so.
we used to get fake Thai stick.
Mm.
They would just tie up the weed on a stick. Didn't mean it came
Yeah,
from Thailand.
I remember seeing some
So
fake Thai stick at Dead Show in Memphis, West Memphis in '95. This guy acted like he just got off the boat and was in the Navy and had a backpack full of all these fake drugs. The way you call the soapium, you know what I mean? The red
oh yeah,
soapium
I
shit.
remember that. Yeah.
And then yeah, like fake weed rolled up and tied together as tied stick. I think my friend bought a little bit of that shit. We went to smoke it. The good
Craziness.
old days.
Yeah.
um, what else did she say that he smoked? Oh,
Panama Red.
in Thai stick, and then what was before that?
And the Thai stick, Panama. Oh, she asked about Early Pearl
Oh yeah, yeah.
and Lost Pearl. I never
Well,
heard of the Lost Pearl.
yeah, I'm not sure what that is either, but the early pearl, I concur with your who was it, your daddy or Gramps? Like it's some proper smoke. It's righteous. It's definitely a precursor building block to some cool stuff, I'm sure.
Louis Farmstrong, our, our boy holding down the chat, says, when I hear Early Pearl, I think of Early Girl. I think those are two completely different strains, right? I don't even think that they're
No,
related.
no, I mean, early girl might be like a precursor to early pearl. I feel like I can't really I can't really say for sure, but I think early pearl or early girl might be like the hybrid before early pearl.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I didn't
so
think they were related, but I could
I
be
could be
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about soapium. I remember that there was this one time that we were homeless in between tours in Berkeley, and we had no herb, and we were like literally camping out like in the Berkeley hills, and they had this plant called mugwort, and we used to smoke that shit when there was no weed, and I can still like remember the way that shit tastes, like soapy, you know. So, and it, definitely got you fucking super high, but I think it just might have been like lack of oxygen and breathing smoke, So, but those are some more, Deadhead Land stories because when the Grateful Dead were touring, it was just so easy to get by and make money and make it to the next show and get money for tickets and whatever. But when there was that couple of months in between tour, it could get rough, and like I remember just like camping out on people's floors, for months at a time and hustling on, Haight Street and the Panhandle. It's some shady shit. I'm glad that I survived it unscathed and never got in trouble. So, anyway, I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about or if we've got some more questions that people want to come
Well,
in on the chat.
I feel like I
Any more
remember
Dead Handland stories?
someone asked me a question on the four blue stars. So that is my blue star back cross line, where I used four separate F2 selections back to the F1 mother. And that's where I think I talked about a little bit about it earlier. So I focused one on the Pinnacle Blueberry Expression, the Blueberry Pie dessert wine, one on Blueberry Kush and Blueberry Sativa. Um, and of course, had to reinforce the traits of the skunk diesel phenotype from the Death Star and sour diesel. So those are mainly. Oh, there's a honeymelon hash plant line in there too. So those are the back crosses to the mother plant for four blue stars, and that's where the high rosin pheno came from. The four blue stars 19. So like the blueberry pie dessert wine with cherry, and does about 5% rosin. So it's a little bit of background on the four blue stars. Somebody asked about raspberry pines. That's the Scherbinger 22 cut. I think Boston Roots or something like that. My buddy got it off of him, and I crossed it to my Blue Star. Uh, that was supposed to be really blueberry chemi, I think, and mine's extreme blueberry Afghan sour D. They paired really nice, but the overall blend, instead of like rich blueberry, was really rich raspberry cheese, and with a heavy chem OG background to it. So you get that fuel and pine and delicious raunchiness of the chem.
Nice.
Oh, and yeah. Oh,
Okay.
here's something. Hey, here's something, Gabby. I want to talk about real quick. That sparked my memory. So you talked about that 91 being a runt and like a seed and like hey, If you're selecting for vigor, that might not have ever been seen. And you brought up a good point that I like to bring up, and why I think you have 10,000 seed plant hunts and find a couple amazing things, and then you'll have people with four seed hunts find a couple amazing things. Well, there's thousands of people with four seed hunts, to find those couple amazing things. But what they're not doing is they're not starting with 1,000 plants, calling 500 for vigor right away, and then you're left with specific phenotypes and never seen the other 50% of the phenotypes. And those people with four seeds, or the people are paying 10 or $20 for a seed, they're going to look through all those seeds and grow them to fruition. And that's where you find these sometimes gems that stand out.
Special.
Yeah. I mean, who the hell would have found OGKB if it didn't take the time to grow that little turd out? Right. I mean, there's all kinds of plants like that are a little more challenging, that are mind blowing.
Mac 1,
Yeah.
all the capulator strains. Um, I have the Mac
Yeah. You got to
1.
have some love to grow that. I grow Jaws's alien cookies, which is basically the Mac. Right. That's what I learned by growing the alien cookies. It's the Mac. It's the fluorescent, glow in the dark cookies, high resin side of Mac One, and has that cereal milk raspberry profile, or whatever people call it. That's what I call it. Um, but man, yeah, it's a labor of love plant, slow and small.
Yeah.
not a lot of flour there, like cherry
I th-
pie.
I think it has to be grown by itself is the thing too. Like you can't mix a Mac 1 in with other plants because it'll just end up in the understory. Everything
Yeah,
else is just going to tower over it. You try to grow Mac 1 next to sour diesel, the Mac 1's just not even going to exist.
right.
So,
That happens. Mm,
well, um, I am thoroughly enjoying this rosin. So one thing is, are these products available like in dispensaries in your state, or are
I've got
licensed
some
farms growing
people in
them?
metric. I've got some people in metric that grow Blue Star, so it does come around. Um, I got some friends that do pretty good indoor work, and then some guys doing large scale outdoor with some of the Blue Star and DJ's Blueberry Genetics. So that's pretty cool to have some of that stuff mass market on the shelves.
How about what do you have? I don't know if you want to say, do you have anything that you're working for in the future that you want to talk about? Like crosses that you're planning?
Yeah, yeah. I've lightly tested my Blue Star back cross number two, where I took the four Blue Stars uh, offspring that's most like the mother plant and back crossed it to the mother again, for a more dominant blueberry pie dessert wine offspring profile with the 5% rosin pheno too. And so I also used that 5% rosin blueberry pheno to some other mother plant selections of breeding work that I've been doing recently. A couple of them are called Zangria Azul, which is a Girl Scout cookies Skittles to my Blue Star. So you have blueberry, that cookie dough kush, and then the candied fruit from the Skittles, and then the straight Skittles to Blue Star I call Blues, and that is a like a Hawaiian Punch blueberry vibe, sour diesel vibe. Both phenomenal. Both finish early September outdoors and are really resistant plants. So I've been developing them for great outdoor Michigan growers here, and the both of my selections for just flower quality smoke to breed with were both 4 to 4.5% rosin phenos too. So really super happy with those, and so I crossed those into that four blue stars cut that you have, and that's the 5% blueberry rosin pheno, and so now I have four lines that I'm calling the overall lines the rosin reserve lines. So they're built off that 5% blue star back cross to all my other high rosin selections that I've been breeding with here for the last few years. So yeah, just keep working it forward. Everything I love, mainly focus on Blue Star, working on some things for early kick-ass outdoor resistance. Started falling in love with rosin the last few years, so that's kind of why this project came together all like that. It's got my Blue Star advancement. It's got the high rosin selections and the early outdoor kick-ass resistant plants in it too. So, yeah, I've grown just a small batch test for stability and just to look and see, and 5 plants of each, and I've already found a couple plants that are standout keepers. So I'm looking forward to running them at scale now in the outdoors, and hopefully have those for people later this summer or something. Maybe, possibly, I might release them after the second clone grow and the second seed grow. But maybe I'll wait till after outdoor too. I like to grow them outdoors as well. Um, it takes a while to get a seed line out. Oh, and then I'm working with my friends down south that have 40 acres. And they do, got like 40,000 plants or something. They do a lot of plants, mainly seeds. I think last year, the year before, was 25,000 seeds and 17,000 clones. I think they were looking to go a little more seed heavy last year, and they did like 10,000 of my seeds the year before, 20,000 last year, and we'll see what's going to happen this year. But it's humbling and an honor for somebody to run that much of your genetics and be able to walk those fields and look through all that stuff.
I was gonna say that, like,
But also, we're going to do a project together where we're hunting through some of these skunk genetics. I've been working at 1989 skunk line where that was the one that's 30 years old, from Sam the Skunk Man before he took the genetics over to Amsterdam and made it sweet skunk. There was the whole acre pollination project he did, where him and R.C. Clark just walked the field pulling, mutants and Hermes and things like that, and leaving all the phenotypes. So the RKS and all that stuff was in there. Or the strong, stinky, acrid skunks were in there. So I hunted those a couple times and found some really killer skunky males that, like, from 6 inches from a seed already smelled like a skunk. Like you couldn't get the smell off you. I made a first cross a long time ago, and the offspring just didn't produce the skunk profile. Just didn't work. And then years later, I popped the rest of those seeds. I had 1,000 of them, so like ended up being able to germinate 150, but only like 30 or 40 probably got to the flower room just because they're that old and no lack of vigor. And then found a second skunk male in that second batch test and made offspring with it and hit a pretty good home run on offspring producing the skunk profile. So we got that project coming, but it still pops off a fair amount of hermaphrodites. So I'm not selling those to the public till I get that dialed in. But we want to test them outdoors. Indoors, I know they have a problem. Outdoors, I've tested them at small scale and no problems, but we're going to test them at scale now, like 500 to 1,000, and see what stability is outdoors, and do some selections on a super large scale, which is super exciting because we've already find killer skunk in a small percentage on 50 or 100 plant indoor hunts. So yeah, there's some of the new stuff that's coming up. Always something in the works.
well, you should consider, like, when you find those skunks, that we should sell them as clones because
Mm.
people really want it right now. It's
I've
like,
got some
you
I've
know,
got some selections. I've been thinking about it.
yeah. So, and I want to say that I'm honored that you allowed me to offer all these beautiful selections, and also you gave me the 4 Blueest Star, which is mothering out, and I'm going to be taking the
Nice.
first clones off of it probably next week. So
Sweet.
those will be available soon. But yeah, I'm excited, and like I know I'm going to end up having to buy a couple of these packs myself, particularly like that uh, the box set. I'm really interested in your 91 crosses, so they seem like
Yeah, the
exactly
dog
what I want to
star.
see. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
that was a badass project, man. There's some amazing offspring in there. There's a cocoa tinge chem diesel. It is, I don't know how to describe it. It's one of those special plants. We'll be smoking on that here soon.
nice. I'm ready. We're going to be doing some reviews, so we can review some of your flowers also.
Yeah,
It sucks for me and not so. It's a tough job, but like somebody's got to do it, right?
right.
We got we got an amazing response when we did the judging of the Gene Traders sour diesel showcase.
Mm.
I didn't think people were going to really enjoy it, but the response was really good. They enjoyed it. They said they want to see more of it, and I don't know if I mentioned this live or if we were talking about it before the podcast, but what I want to do is have a contest that runs for a year. That way, like, you were saying, you don't have to plan 4 months in advance that you're going to have your herb, for the right time of this. Like, and when you produce something really special, then you can just submit it then. When you're like, this is something that I'm proud of, that it's perfect, then you can submit it then. And, we will go and review all the flowers live the way we did for the Sour Diesel Showcase. And then the best product, or actually we'll just freeze everything after we do the review. And then, at the end of the year, we have our notes and we say, these are the ones that Gabby and Not So Dog think are the best. And then we're going to have a competition with those strains to, see what other people choose as the winner of those. For that, Not So Dog and I won't choose. But that's the plan. It's pretty much open to everybody. We'll figure out some more details soon, but I definitely want to try. I want to smoke some more high-end hazes. I'm really looking forward. I got some stuff from Budulero, and I don't know, like, it's really beautiful. I love the stuff. I love what they're doing, but I don't know if like what I got was like just really old, but like I really feel like I want to smoke fresh pearls, not pearls that have been aged for a year. You know what I mean? Like, and even though I understand that, you know, they think the effect is better this way, like I got to work my way to that direction, But yeah, I want to smoke, and there's none available here. Like the Budulero guys, they're the only ones that I know that grow these long flowering sativas.
It's a hard market. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, in this race to the bottom, cannabis economy, like
I
who the hell
don't think
can
it's a
grow
hard.
things that
I
take
don't.
twice as long?
I mean, maybe I'm wrong because I'm not doing it, but I wouldn't think it would be a hard market because no one else is doing it, and people are constantly asking for more sativas and more hazes, and we got to turn them down, because like the stuff's not available. So I
Yeah.
think currently there's few enough people doing it that you can like make your niche, and like they sell their herb for more than anyone sells
Well,
outdoor
good,
weed and greenhouse for.
good,
Like
'cause it takes longer.
that's right, by a long shot. You know, um, so like there's opportunity for people to grow these long flowering strains. So like I said,
It's awesome. Yeah, there's
I,
support.
I can't even get any. If it's not from Budulero, I can't even get long flowering stuff. So
Yeah, it's a hard market.
curious to know if the thiols will come out way stronger outdoors than they do indoors, depending on the lighting used inside.
If the what will come out stronger, like
Thiols,
mm,
thiols. I
like
think you're
skunk,
talking
like
about,
dials.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I think if you have a good environment and you can, uh, have a good season, you can't beat Mother Nature outdoors in the sun and the spectrum it provides. You can't replicate that indoors. But I think if you have a healthy indoor environment and you got a dialed in grow, um, I think you should have good expression either way. It's just a matter of a good healthy grow, I think. But I think outdoor could provide a little more opportunity for more roundness of expression in cannabinoid development in general. So diols included.
I
I'm not
think
so
I
big.
think
I'm not so much on like added sulfur, if that's what you're talking about. Like just kind of what the plant asks for and needs basically.
I think that the best type of situation is greenhouses that
Yeah,
have
I do too.
that
They're
that
great.
have that have supplemental lighting, because now
That's even bigger bonus. Yeah.
you're getting the best of everything.
Yep.
And um, the problem with full sun grown is that there's no protection,
Right.
and shit gets you. The rain comes. It
Yeah.
just
It's
takes
easier to get
just takes one rain, and your crop will just never be the same. Like
beat
even
the
if it
shit
doesn't
out
get,
of and
even if, yeah,
mold. And, yeah.
the beat the shit out of.
Yeah.
People don't even consider that enough. Forget about like you don't get mold, you don't get mildew, but your plants get beat up. That affects it. It's like that rain.
Greenhouses are a great way to go if you can do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
I mean the light depths and light assist, being grown here in California, they can be as good, if not better, than any indoor. So
Yeah, I mean,
I have a
light depth
question for you.
greenhouse using the sun as much as possible. I think is my dream of probably the best potentially grown stuff. I mean, Mother Nature does a great job, but if you can keep bird poop and heavy rain off of it when the trichomes are developing at the end, I think greenhouses are a
Contr-
big advantage.
or controlling the climate so it's not extreme. Like
Yep.
a proper greenhouse just offers just everything a cannabis grower could want. So I have a question for you. I have my opinion on this, but I want to hear what yours is. Sometimes you hear people talking about putting plants outside because the sunlight cures them of whatever. I mean, it's gone as far that people think, oh, you have HLVD, your plants just need sunlight. Put them outside, and then your plants won't have HLVD anymore. And I think it's nonsense. I'll start it off by saying that. But what do you think about the sunlight curing stuff like this?
Well, I I know DJ's a believer in the sun rejuvenating the plant and making it healthier. And I think he's probably right, honestly.
What does
Now,
healthier mean?
right. Well, like,
Like if I have cancer,
are you going to get rid of a disease if you had a pythium, a fusarium, or a viroid? I don't know about that. I don't necessarily think so. Now, can you start to outcompete it? Like a person that has AIDS and has a real healthy immune system and they never see it. Sure, I think that's possible, and maybe that's what we're describing if we're getting down to nitpicking about it. But otherwise, yeah, I think the sun can make plants potentially healthier because it's giving it its food, its vitamins, its what it lives off of, light, like we all do. We're all just light.
light and water and minerals.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that sun grown plants can be healthier, but I don't want to give the illusion that plants being healthier means that they're cured of
sure.
illnesses. And then also I think when you put the plants back inside, it's just like, yeah, if you're taking a clone off of a healthy plant, it's always going to be better. And if you're unable to grow healthy plants indoors, then those plants that are outside, are helpful. But I just don't ever find that that's like, I think if you have to put your plants outside to rejuvenate them, like to give them, you got some bigger problems, like I've just, I've done most of my cultivating inside, and I've never felt like, oh man, this plant needs to be cured outdoors.
Yeah,
So,
I hear you. I mean, you kept plants 20, 30 years.
yeah.
All
Well, I
right.
mean, I had
And what
fire.
kind of shape are they in?
Well, not all of them are in great shape.
And I'm not blaming
Yeah,
putting it outside is going to cure it. I'm just saying, I don't know. You
yeah.
and I both agree on all this stuff already, which is you get a 20 or
Well,
30 year
that
old
that
plant,
gets
man. It's
boring.
not
That
made
gets
to
boring.
produce.
We don't have to agree on everything. That'll be
No, no,
boring.
I'm just saying, like, you get a 20 or 30 year old plant. I just think, it's for breeding and nostalgia more so than like trying to produce a good, righteous, healthy flower every time with it because it's old.
I
Like,
agree.
so whatever the reasons are, and they basically typically are the same reasons for us. We're going through our aging process. So is the plant. So it's picking up, weakened immune system or whatever you'd call it, and it picks up a virus or a disease or something, and and that adds up on it, and eventually, it can't be what it was. it's got changed DNA from those issues.
I think that's why I really like tissue culture, and I'm trying to learn more and
Or
more about
breeding,
tissue culture. Yeah,
keep it
breeding
fresh. I
is,
mean,
you know, I
we
mean, I
did
think I
too
think
bad
you
with
have to.
popping babies and
I think a proper program. Well, I shouldn't say proper because that implies that if you don't do it this way, it's not. But I think a good program incorporates all of these things. You know, uh, cryogenic storage, tissue culture, making seeds, and keeping mother plants and clones. You know, like it's always good to like. It's kind of like I remember hearing about backing up your computer, and that you always want to do it like three different ways in two different places. You know, at least that way. You know, if one place you have a fire, you know, you don't lose everything. And I did. You know, I lost everything, you know, in 2017. So, and I didn't have everything backed up in other places, you know. So,
yeah, I'm with you. It's like multiple ways to potentially keep things preserved and keep them going and keep them healthy. Yeah, spread those seeds because like it's a good natural thing that stays alive for quite a few years, and you've got your natural vigor in there, and it seems to be the way of nature for the most part. But I'm not opposed to any of the new things like TC and stuff. Hey, show me the light if it's going to be a nice, healthy way to keep our one of our favorite plants happy and healthy.
well, I'm working with the Mothership Labs,
Hmm.
and what we want to do is, of course, we're going to provide services. You know, we're going to do tissue culture, we're going to do virus mediation, we're going to do long-term storage, um,
Hmm.
synthetic seeds. We're going to do all of this stuff for people. But one of our missions is also to teach people, you know, and make it, you know, less scary. You know, I remember the first time I did tissue culture, I was like, man, it's that easy. And I want everyone here to know it's actually that easy, and that everyone should like start with the beginner tissue culture stuff with nodal, because you start to learn about the aseptic technique. You learn how to be clean, okay? And then once your vessels are coming out and there's no contamination, then we can teach you how to do the meristem dissection. And with the meristem dissection, you're ensuring that your plants are much cleaner. You know, like it doesn't get rid of the virus every time, but a really high percentage. So if you do it a few meristem dissections on a plant that has a viroid, you're pretty likely to get one that's clean. You know, and this is something. So something that I tell people is for the cost of having one plant go through TC, you could have your own TC lab. Okay? So you can TC your entire genetic collection for the cost that it will take to just have one done.
What are you talking? A couple grand or something?
Yeah, yeah. You
Hmm.
know, like if you have a few $1,000 budget, you know, I mean, I have it in the other room. I could show it, but like I bought a flow hood online for $100. You know, not online, excuse me, from like Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace. Somebody had it. Lots of lots of people want to grow mushrooms and then they give up on it. And you can find these, you know, flow hoods just about anywhere, like for giveaway prices. But you can also buy a brand new one on Amazon, like a smaller one, for like just a couple $100. Okay, and then you need a way to sanitize your media, which you can use a pressure cooker. I purchased an autoclave, which, just to let people know, it's just a pressure cooker that's electric, and it's really designed for sanitizing stuff. So like, you know, it heats up really fast. That thing full price is like $1,000. I did get a used one on Marketplace for like a few hundred. But you can, you know, so those are the two most expensive things that you need is the
Hmm.
flow hood and an autoclave to sanitize media. We're going to be selling kits so that like we'll give you everything that you need to make a liter of media, and it's very inexpensive. Like, you know, you end up paying more for the vessels that you're pouring everything into, like the little plastic vessels, that we're going
Hmm.
to do our tissue culture in, than the media. So it's really cost effective. And like I said, I guarantee the 120 people that are listening right now that when you do it the first time, you're going to be like, wow, that was pretty easy. And most of your stuff doesn't get contaminated. Like, you're going to make a couple of mistakes and you're going to touch things that you shouldn't touch, or, like come out of the clean zone, or like your hands come out of the clean zone and then you don't sanitize your hands again, or, you can get a little contamination, but the flow hood really minimizes almost all the contamination because it's blowing clean air right in front of your work. And so, like, I do tissue culture here in my kitchen on my dining room table. I just put the flow hood in front of me, work behind it, and there's no contamination. And the shit starts growing in a matter of a couple of weeks, and you're like, holy shit, this is just, it's so easy. We're going to be putting out a lot of content on tissue culture, so I encourage everybody to check in. And as far as you, Josh, I mean, we can do this super easy, and I'd be stoked. And there's people that aren't ready to do it themselves. They don't have a space, they don't have the mental bandwidth to learn how to do it. And for those people, like, we offer the services.
Hmm.
So, like, because I've talked to a bunch of people that I was like, well, you should just do this, and they're like, no, we just want to pay for it, it's fine. Like, we
Right.
just we just need it done now, and like, we're too busy growing our plants,
Hmm.
struggling doing that. So there's always going to be, but a lot of people, the idea of paying a few $1,000s to have one genetic cleaned, it's like, well, I'm just going to throw it away, and lose a lot of stuff that way. Realistically, you could set up a bare bones tissue culture kit, like, with everything that you need to actually do it for less than $500. You know, less than $500, you have everything you need, and you can save your sick plants. So
That's pretty neat.
anyway, that's my rant on tissue culture. I'm just super excited to
Yeah, I
be
can tell you're passionate
working.
about it.
Yeah, it's cool to have something like that. I would love to see a cut like the Chem 91 get grown alongside a TC version of Chem 91. Okay,
Yeah, me
so
too.
guess what? We just did that.
Oh, sweet.
That's exactly what we just did. And so Not So Dog got 3 cuttings. Okay, just to briefly tell the story. I didn't have the Chem 91 for a minute. Okay, and there was somebody that will remain nameless that didn't want to give it back to me. And so when the word got out about that, then everybody was like, here, I've got the cut for you. Greg Chemdog gave me one. I got one from that person's collection that didn't want to give it back to me. And then also got it from Farmer Joe's collection. And the Farmer Joe one was from tissue culture, and the other two were not. Okay? And when Not So Dog grew them, he was like, yeah, this one grows better. They're all the same weed, but this one grows better. And that's the Farmer Joe cut because it went from tissue culture. And it gives the plants, I don't like to say that it rejuvenates it, but like, because tissue culture doesn't turn back the clock of time, right? If you tissue culture an old plant, you're preserving it from that point. But what it does do is it cleans up some of these diseases and viruses that can be slowing down and hurting the plant. Maybe it's not even hop latent viroid. There's so
Right.
many things, and
Yep.
so when you do tissue culture, you get rid of these pathogens, okay, and the cut from Farmer Joe grew better than the one directly from Greg, and better than the one from that other dude. So, the tissue culture works. And I'd also like to point out is that we gave the cutting back to Greg in tissue culture. I have a video of me because I got the cut from Greg and I drove it across
Mhm.
country. And so, like, when I was able to give Greg back a TC cut of the tissue culture, it made me really, like, proud and, like, actually a little bit more a part of the story. Like, being able to do that, I thought was cool. So,
Be interesting to hear his perspective on if he's had a chance to get it grown out yet and what he
yeah.
thinks.
So, after I said that, I should say I highly suspect that he killed that plant. But he can have it back at any time because what happened was we were at it like a concert.
Oh,
And I mean, like, he was going home the next day. It was like, it wasn't
yeah.
even he was having a party um, at, I forget what the fucking contest is. The Hall of Flowers. And then they were having some event over at the Sweetwater. And so, like, it was an Arcana party. And I just showed up there. I couldn't get through to him. I couldn't get through to him. And so, like, I just showed up to the party with tissue culture plants. And I gave him, the Chem 91. I think if he would have been successful with it, he would have, like, called me for advice on, like, how to take it to the next step. But it's okay. He can have it back anytime. I'll give him the tissue culture back as many times as it takes so that he doesn't kill him. I'm looking for him here.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, so from my perspective, you get something like that, and if you're around a bunch of people or you're out uh, in in Mother Nature, like I'm really skeptical about bringing shit back into my garden.
Yeah, but like this,
Hmm.
like I gave him a jar. I have the plant here. I gave him something like this. Oh, look.
Oh,
That
okay,
might,
that's a little different. Okay,
okay. You see how it
that's
says
not like
Chem
just a
91?
clone of the solo cup or anything. Yeah.
No, no, no. See how it says Chem 91 Smash Hits? So Smash Hits is his place in Massachusetts. And
Okay.
we got somebody gave me the cut that they purchased there. And then we put it in tissue culture. And like I said, I got to give it back to Greg. And we've been,
Yeah, that's cool.
we've been talking a little bit more. I want to get Greg on the show, him and P Bud together. And because whenever we get friends on the show like that, they have all sorts of stories to share.
Sure.
So I will send you the picture of me giving Greg the tissue culture plants. Let me see. I have one last folder to look for it. Oh, here we go. There it is. So I was happy about that.
Got a picture with this little plant.
That's right. He was like really blown away. He was like just blown away that that was the 91, so
What's your
so
shirt say? Don't call what?
don't call her the VA cut.
Okay,
So, yeah. Anyway, we have gone for
uh,
over 3 hours. If anybody wants to ask a last minute question, but if not, we are going to let you roll. Before we do, I'm going to thank Josh again for spending 3 hours with us and telling us some stories and telling us about all these genetics that he's got. And I smoked some of his beautiful herb, the 4 Blueest Stars, which I also have the moms growing right now. And like I
yeah.
said, this weed is like, when you smoke this, it's like, that's old school weed. I'm really bad at describing terps, but I'll tell you one thing. When you smoke this, it reminds you of like old school Dead Tour weed. It's fucking awesome. So I'm excited. Anyway,
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody. Please do not disconnect, Josh. You got to stay with me when we hang up, all
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Alrighty, everybody. Thank you for joining us, Josh. It's been great. We can do
Thank
this
you very
again
much.
when you remember some stories that you forgot to tell. We can do a part two anytime.
Sounds
And
good.
yeah, everybody check out Blue Star Seed Co.